Chapter 1491. Xiao Qin composed himself and revealed a bitter smile. What is this? A show of strength? Xiao Qin, this is Big Brother Dragon, the core item spirit of the Blue Dragon Palace. Back then, the Qing Emperor passed his test and became the master of the Blue Dragon Palace, the black-clad old man introduced. The black-clad old man introduced. The huge blue dragon trembled and turned into a mighty and extraordinary dragon horse. Then, it said, let me correct you. Back then, Xiao Ting only passed the test and did not obtain the inheritance. Strictly speaking, he is not the master of the Blue Dragon Palace. Test? Inheritance? Right now, Xiao Qin felt confused. He did not understand anything, his face filled with confusion. The azure dragon horse swayed its body and said to Xiao Qin, come with me. Xiao Qin obeyed and followed the other party. At the same time, Xiao Qin looked around. The second floor of the Blue Dragon Palace was much larger than the first and second floors. The corridors were even more complicated. There were also several places that were pitch black. Xiao Qin did not know where they led. Since you are here, let me tell you about the origins of the Blue Dragon Palace, so that you can understand some things first, the dragon horse leading the way said. Xiao Qin nodded and said respectfully, Senior, please speak. Xiao Qin could feel the strength of this dragon horse as well as the ancient aura left behind by the passage of time. Xiao Qin did not dare to be presumptuous. His attitude was very sincere. As he walked here, he felt like he was returning to his roots. Xiao Qin did not know if it was a misperception, but it felt very strange. At the same time, it made him feel even more humble. The dragon race has a long and ancient history. They are one of the great desolate 100 races of the universe. After the destruction of countless epochs, they still exist. Xiao Qin understood what epochs were. Right now, the Kunlun realm was in the martial epoch. Before that, it was the immortal epoch. There had to be other epochs above the immortal epoch. Epochs rose and fell in an endless cycle. However, what did the great desolate 100 races mean? Xiao Qin did not understand. When the dragon horse heard Xiao Qin's question, it muttered to itself, why don't you understand this? That being said, this land of exile is like a cage. It is truly sealed up. Let me tell you. At the beginning of the universe, there was chaos. In the primal chaos, there was no sky, no earth, no time, and no reason. But it's not like there's no life in between. The beings born from the chaos were called chaos gods and demons. The gods and demons fought each other until the chaos was shattered. That era was called the mythical era. The chaos was broken, and the mythological era came to an end. Then came the primitive era. During the Great Desolate Era, tens of thousands of clans fought for supremacy. At that time, there were a total of 100 clans, and my dragon clan was one of them. After the Great Desolate Era ended, the universe entered the Epoch Era, and the epochs continued to reincarnate. Legend has it that after 3,000 reincarnations, the era will end and the universe will enter a new era. Xiao Qin listened to this explanation that he had never heard of before. It was like a heavenly book, and he was completely shocked. The azure dragon horse continued, you don't have to care about all this. What I want to tell you is that the pure-blooded dragon race is already extinct. However, there's no need to find this strange. After the epochs, the pure-blooded great desolate 100 races are nearly all dead. The so-called dragon race now is just some existences with the dragon race bloodline, continuing the history of the dragon race. The dragon race is just a general term. The dragon race is also divided into different ranks. The most supreme are the 3 ancestor dragons. Below the ancestor dragons are the 7-colored divine dragons. Below the divine dragons are the coiling dragons, sky dragons, flood dragons, lightning dragons, and other true dragons. There's no need to mention those below the true dragons. The dragon race bloodline is already too thin. They can't even become dragons, only pseudo-dragons. Xiao Qian's comprehension ability was astonishing. Although the Azure Dragon Horse's explanation was complicated, he understood it with just a little thought. The ranks of the dragon race were Ancestor Dragon, Divine Dragon, True Dragon, and Pseudo Dragon. However, Xiaoqin did not know which rank his Blue Dragon bloodline was in. You have the Blue Dragon bloodline, one of the 7 colored divine dragons. The Ancestor Dragon bloodline disappeared several epochs ago. The Divine Dragon bloodline is now the strongest bloodline of the dragon race. You have to understand the nobility of your status. You are a noble among dragons. When you go out in the future, do not tarnish the reputation of my Blue Dragon bloodline. The Azure Dragon Horse turned its head and stared at Xiaoqin as it instructed him. Its extremely serious expression made Xiaoqin feel somewhat embarrassed. Xiaoqin said softly, "Senior, I don't feel anything special about the bloodline in my body." That's normal. This is because the Blue Dragon martial spirit in your body has not merged with your blood yet. When you pass the test, I will naturally help you refine the Blue Dragon martial spirit. At that time, you will be an outstanding demonic genius with the bloodline of the Great Desolate 100 Races. The dragon horse was not surprised at all. As it spoke, it walked forward. Stone pillars with dragon motifs lined both sides of the path. Xiaoqin felt that he would reach his destination soon. Along the way, the two did not stop talking. Of course, most of the time, it was the dragon horse talking, and Xiaoqin listening seriously. Occasionally, the dragon horse had questions, and it would explain in detail so that Xiaoqin could understand it clearly. It seemed like the dragon horse's temper was not as strange as the black-clad old man said. The Blue Dragon Palace is the inheritance of my Blue Dragon bloodline. The Blue Dragon bloodline has produced more than 100 Dragon Emperors. The Dragon Emperors are the Divine Dragon Emperors. They control the life and death of the dragon race. You only need to pass the test. Just like the Qing Emperor, you need to obtain the inheritance of the Dragon Emperor. Only then can you be the true master of the Blue Dragon Palace. As the dragon horse spoke, the man and the horse arrived at a large hall. The large hall was clean and elegant. However, the might and pressure of the dragon race permeated this peaceful atmosphere. Those not of the dragon race would feel a different effect. They would not be as calm as Xiaoqin. When the dragon horse arrived at the large hall, the dragon horse stopped. Xiaoqin knew that the test was about to begin. Along the way, the dragon horse spoke, and Xiaoqin listened. Only when it had questions would the dragon horse speak up. The things that the dragon horse spoke about were related to the Blue Dragon Palace's origins and the dragon race's existence. Xiaoqin did not ask the true question in his heart. He did not know if he could pass the test or not. If he could not, then he would never have a chance to ask. After calming himself, Xiaoqin decided to ask before the test began. After making up his mind, he asked, "Senior, this junior would like to ask about something. I hope that senior can tell me sincerely." The dragon horse was not in a rush. It looked at Xiaoqin and said, "Speak." Xiaoqin had already organized what he wanted to say many times in his mind. Then, he asked, "Senior, I would like to ask if the major characters outside the abandoned land can forcefully summon the people of the Kunlun realm out." They can. However, they need to go through a ceremony. Furthermore, the conditions are very strict. The energy and resources that the ceremony requires are hard to calculate. It is very difficult for the people in this abandoned land to leave, but it is even more difficult for the people outside to enter. The dragon horse did not hesitate at all. It continued, "Hence, such a thing rarely happens. It might even be impossible. However, it cannot be denied that such a ceremony does exist." Xiaoqin calmed down a little. His heart, which had been hanging in suspense for a long time, finally stopped. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, he asked, "If the person being summoned has the white dragon bloodline, what are the chances?" The Blue Dragon Palace's core item Soul, which usually answered quickly, hesitated for a moment when it heard this question. "Senior, what's wrong?" Xiaoqin asked as anticipation flickered in his eyes. An indiscernible strange light flashed in the dragon horse's eyes. It replied, "The white dragon is also one of the 7-colored divine dragons. If what you said is true, given the strength of the white dragon bloodline and the resources expended, I can be absolutely certain." Xiaochen did not see the strange light in the dragon horse's eyes. Instead, he revealed an expression of joy and said, "Many thanks, Senior. However, before we start the test, can Senior let me see the scene outside the Blue Dragon Palace?" The dragon horse quickly replied, "I cannot do that. If I want to see the situation outside, I will have to open the barrier of the Blue Dragon Palace. There will be the danger of outsiders attacking." When Xiaochen heard that, he felt somewhat disappointed. He said sullenly, "In that case, Senior, please let me take the test." The dragon horse turned around and looked in a direction. Then, it said, "Go straight down this trial path. If you can reach the end, you will pass the test. Many thanks." After performing a cup-fist salute and thanking the dragon horse, Xiaochen quickly headed for the trial path. Whether he succeeded or not, he wanted to leave quickly. After Xiaochen's figure disappeared, the black-clad old man revealed himself. "Big Brother Dragon, why did you lie to him? Given your abilities, how could you not see the situation outside? So what if he saw it? Could it be that he gave up on the trial and went out to die? You should know that he is the last existence of my blue dragon bloodline. I can't afford to bear the consequences. I think very highly of him. You'd best not speak too much about Xiaoteng, lest you cause trouble for him." When the black-clad old man heard the dragon horse mention Xiaoteng, he revealed a sad expression as he sighed softly. Chapter 1492. Filled with anticipation and nervousness, Xiaochen stepped onto the trial road. Once he reached the end, he would pass. Where was the end? After walking for a while, Xiaochen came across the first door. There was an ancient dragon carving on the door. Before Xiaochen could push it open, the door opened on its own. The instant the door opened, a cold wind blew in. There was a vast hall outside. Xiaochen hesitated for a moment before walking in. Dang! The moment Xiaochen crossed the threshold, the stone door immediately fell shut. Xiaochen tried pushing it a few times and discovered that the closed door could not be opened. This was a trial road that only allowed one to advance and not retreat. Xiaochen looked at the hall before him. There were 18 statues in a circle, occupying most of the vast hall. To pass the hall, one had to go through the circle formed by these 18 statues. Xiaochen had seen many similar statues before. As long as one walked past them, these seemingly stiff statues would come to life. One had to defeat these statues. The statue before Xiaochen was neither human nor dragon. It was a kind of monster that Xiaochen had never seen before. It looked strange and sinister, glaring at Xiaochen. A pair of black eyes protruded out, looking very eye-catching. Let's see how strong the puppet warbeast of the first stage is. Without overthinking, Xiaochen walked quickly and soon entered the circle. Xiaochen cautiously faced it. However, to his surprise, this monster statue did not come to life. Just as Xiaochen was feeling bewildered, the eyes of the 18 ferocious beast statues all lit up, releasing a golden light. Before Xiaochen could understand what was going on, the gaze of a ferocious beast moved at the speed of light, shooting at Xiaochen. Whoosh! So fast! Xiaochen exclaimed to himself. He quickly dodged to the side, and the beam of light brushed past him. Dang! A few more beams of light shot out. Xiaochen could not dodge in time, so he could only draw his divine weapon to block. In the end, the force contained in the beam of light numbed Xiaochen's arm, forcing him to retreat. What strong force! The light beam could not be blocked at all. Xiaochen was startled awake. This trial tested the trial taker's movement technique and reaction speed. He wasn't going to defeat these statues as he had expected. That would be easy to deal with. In this small space, 18 beams of light shot back and forth. For others, it was very difficult, but it was different for Xiaochen. Xiaochen's fish dragon art excelled at dodging in small spaces. Then, he put away his divine weapon. Xiaoqian executed the fish dragon art. His body moved like a fish in water, gently dodging the beams of light. Hoochie hoochie. Just as Xiaoqian was about to pass through, the statues suddenly began to move rapidly. The beams of light it emitted became even more elusive. Xiaoqian's relaxed expression turned grave as he fell into deep thought. Trying to figure out the rules was clearly a delusion. The real way to clear the trial was to hit the target with a single strike. With this thought in mind, Xiaoqian's eyes focused on a statue. When the statue arrived in front of Xiaoqian, it gently pushed off the ground with its feet, and its body transformed into a dragon. The originally nimble figure suddenly changed, becoming tyrannical. Filled with berserk energy, the immortal fish transformed into a dragon. Whoosh! Xiaoqian soared into the air, moving extremely fast. The statues all raised their heads, and the beams of light formed a net in the air. However, the beams of light only struck Xiaoqian's afterimage. Just as the statue in front was about to shoot out a beam of light, the advancing Xiaoqian somersaulted in the air and tapped on the statue's head before leaping over. The instant Xiaoqian left the encirclement, the statue immediately stopped moving. Clap! 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 Applause rang out, and a handsome, middle-aged man walked out of the shadow in front. A golden light flickered in the depths of his eyes. Not bad. As long as you don't get hit 10 times, you pass this trial. You did not get hit even once and used only 1 hour to come out. This really exceeded my expectations. Xiaoqian could not help feeling speechless. Had he known, he would not have put in so much effort. He performed a cup fist salute and asked, "You are?" The middle-aged man smiled and said, "When I was alive, I was a cultivator of the Blue Dragon bloodline. After I died, I was placed in the Blue Dragon Palace. I can be considered half an item soul, responsible for the first trial." After he spoke, he waved his hand, and 7 or 8 secret manuals and some secret treasures floated in front of him. You passed with full marks. This is your reward. The secret manuals are about movement techniques. The other innate profound weapons are also for movement techniques and speed. Xiaoqian rejoiced in his heart. There was such a good thing. I can get a reward even before I complete the trial. Of course. We are all people of my dragon race. Even if we do not pass the trial, we have to give some benefits, right? The middle-aged man smiled amiably. Xiaoqian did not stand on ceremony. He started to choose carefully, already making up his mind. No matter how good the secret manuals were, they required time to cultivate. However, innate profound weapons were different. After refining them, they could be used immediately. In the long run, the secret manuals were definitely worth it. However, what Xiaoqian lacked the most now was time. He did not know when the demonic calamity would descend. After he left, he would definitely face a lot of trouble. "Senior, what is an innate profound weapon? Can you explain it to me?" Xiaoqian asked. The middle-aged man nodded and said, "Outside the abandoned land, the art of refining has already reached great heights. The secret treasures of your world are equivalent to the spirit treasures of the outside world. Above spirit treasures are profound weapons. Profound weapons are divided into acquired and innate and acquired. Each has 3 grades. Even the most ordinary innate profound weapon is stronger than an emperor-grade secret treasure of the Kunlun realm. The 3 innate profound weapons before you go without saying." Xiaoqian entered deep thought and roughly understood. Then, he chose a pair of wings. This is an imitation of the Blue Dragon Divine Wings. However, among innate profound weapons, it is at the peak of superior grade. You have good eyes. The middle-aged man stretched out his hand and put away the other secret manuals. Then, he left the imitation of the Blue Dragon Divine Wings for Xiaoqian. After Xiaoqian left a spiritual mark in it, he started refining it. Finally, the imitation of the Blue Dragon Divine Wings turned into a beam of light and entered his body. Immediately, it felt like a flame was burning in his body, spreading everywhere. Just as Xiao Chen felt uncertain, this flame split into two and entered Xiao Chen's back. An intense pain came from his back. It was as if a volcano was about to erupt from his back. After being suppressed for a long time, this energy finally erupted. A pair of azure-colored dragon wings spread open on Xiao Chen's back. Whoosh! The azure-colored dragon wings flapped gently, and a strong wind blew. Xiao Chen's body flew into the ceiling with a bang. Xiao Chen's head crashed into the ceiling, and he cried out in pain as he fell down. The middle-aged man was not surprised. He smiled and said, "Although this pair of blue dragon divine wings is an imitation, they are very strong. With a gentle flap, they can generate a strong wind. If you have a special flame, you can use this pair of blue dragon divine wings to increase the might of your flames." Xiao Chen put away the blue dragon divine wings. When he heard that, he rejoiced. Aside from increasing speed, this pair of blue dragon divine wings had such a function. It was truly wondrous. These blue dragon divine wings have many other uses. You will understand them in the future. However, remember one thing. Outside the abandoned land, wing-type profound weapons are extremely precious. Even if it is just an innate profound weapon, it will cause a commotion. Don't reveal it randomly. Xiao Chen nodded and performed a cupped fist salute. "Many thanks, Senior. You are too polite. Let me give you a friendly reminder. The next stage tests your eyesight. Remember not to get distracted after you enter. If you have any eye techniques that increase your eyesight, execute them the moment you enter. You do not have much time left." The middle-aged man was rather amiable. Before Xiao Chen left, he gave him some advice. Chapter 1493. After Xiao Chen left, the dragon horse and the black-clad old man walked over from the hall. The middle-aged man said to the dragon horse, "Big brother dragon." The dragon horse nodded like a human and said, "How did it go? How did your performance go? What reward did you choose?" The middle-aged man answered honestly, "He passed with full marks, using less than 1 hour. He chose the replica of the blue dragon divine wings. He passed with full marks. He is even more incredible than the Qing emperor back then." The black-clad old man revealed a strange expression, clearly in disbelief and shock. The dragon horse said rudely, "I said long ago that I think highly of him. He took a different path from the Qing emperor. Back then, the Qing emperor wanted to enter the Tao with the demonic Tao, but he already went astray. Most importantly, he is still young. His future is limitless." The black-clad old man remained silent. He could not rebut this, nor could he. Entering the Tao with the demonic Tao was indeed a direction. The great Tao was one. No matter what path was taken, it would all lead to the same destination in the end. However, the Qing emperor's path was too extreme. In the end, he failed. There was nothing much to say, nor was there a need to say anything more. He chose the replica of the blue dragon divine wings. Given his intelligence, it is not hard for him to guess that those secret manuals are more precious. It looks like while he does not know what is happening outside, he has a vague premonition. The Dragon's Gate's astute old Taoist priest figured out Xiao Chen's thoughts. After entering the second stage and opening the door, Xiao Chen discovered that the scene before him kept changing. At one moment, it was a desert, then a vast ocean, then a glacier, then a sea of fire. Xiao Chen had already opened his heavenly eye long ago. However, he still felt that he could not see clearly enough, unable to figure out what was going on. Amid this constantly changing scene, a girl in her prime walked out. There was also a barely detectable golden light in the depths of her eyes. "Greetings, Senior," Xiao Chen said respectfully with a slight bow. The girl in her prime nodded. "This stage is a test of vision. From the moment you entered, a total of 9 different scenes appeared. I want you to draw them all in one painting." This, Xiao Chen felt somewhat stunned. No wonder the middle-aged man in front told him to open his heavenly eye the moment he entered. Fortunately, he did as he was told. However, he had never learned how to draw. Do you still need to learn the tricks of painting for a warrior of your strength? This stage tests your eyesight, not your drawing skills. Just draw whatever you see. The young woman was far less amiable than the middle-aged man. She didn't bother to hide her emotions. After handing over the brush, ink, paper, and inkstone to Xiao Chen, she walked to the side and didn't say anything. Xiao Chen smiled helplessly. He rolled up his sleeves, picked up the brush, and began to ponder. He still had some drawing skills. After all, he was also a person who drew talismans a long time ago. The way he held the brush was quite decent. His white robes fluttered in the wind, giving him an air of elegance. How to draw? From the beginning till now, it had only been a minute, but a total of 9 scenes had appeared: barren mountain, desert, glacier, swamp, city, small courtyard, battlefield, ocean, lake, etc. It was impossible for him to draw them all. Eyesight. Just as Xiao Chen was at his wit's end, he suddenly remembered the purpose of this stage. Then, he revealed a faint smile. It turned out that this stage was not just a test of eyesight but also of flexibility. What was eyesight? It could be summed up in 8 words: perceptive, meticulous, and perceptive. As long as this painting could depict the 9 environments and embody these 8 words, it would be enough. If he wanted to draw all 9 scenes, who knew how long he would have to wait? The first scene was a barren mountain. Xiao Chen remembered an unremarkable blade of grass in a crack at the peak of the barren mountain, so he drew it. There was an indistinct black dot in the extreme distance of the glacier. It looked like a cultivator carrying a sword on his back. The ocean was vast, stretching as far as the eye could see. However, Xiao Chen remembered that the scene in that illusion left the deepest impression on him was a wave. The wave surged, hiding a ferocious sea beast. It seemed to merge with the wave, making it hard to distinguish. On the battlefield, 2 armies faced each other. More than 10,000 cultivators fought. There were countless martial techniques. However, Xiao Chen saw them all. In less than 15 minutes, Xiao Chen stopped writing. Then, he smiled at the young woman and said, "I'm done." So fast. The young woman clearly did not believe him. She said coldly, "Have you thought it through? There is no time limit for this stage. However, you only have 1 chance." Xiao Chen said confidently, "I have thought it through. Senior, please take a look." The young woman gave Xiao Chen a deep look. Then, she walked over quickly. When she saw the painting clearly, her lips curled up, revealing a mocking expression on her pretty face. "What did you draw?" "Although I am not very strict, there is no need to do this even if you want to brush me off." In the painting, fallen leaves fell. A handsome swordsman with a blade of grass in his mouth executed a sword technique and killed a ferocious beast. Xiao Chen did not panic. He said warmly, "Senior, please take a closer look." The young woman looked suspiciously at Xiao Chen. She did not understand why he was so confident. However, when she looked at the painting again, she was suddenly stunned. The more he delved into it, the more shocked he became. "How did you do it?" the young woman asked seriously as she put down the painting. Needless to say, Xiao Chen naturally passed the test of this stage, meeting the requirements. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "I did it just like that. Senior, I finally passed." "You passed with full marks. The reward for this stage is 3 eye technique secret manuals and a bottle of superior purity immortal water, a spiritual liquid that improves eye techniques. Which one do you choose?" Xiao Chen did not hesitate. He said seriously, "Superior purity immortal water. Have you thought it through? Even without the spiritual liquid, your eye technique will make a breakthrough. Furthermore, once you give up on the eye technique secret manuals, it will be extremely difficult to obtain them again. Thank you for Senior's kind intentions. This junior has thought it through. Here." The young woman handed a jade bottle to Xiao Chen. Naturally, this bottle contained the superior purity immortal water. Xiao Chen held it in his hand and entered deep thought. Then, he took out another jade bottle and split the superior purity immortal water in half. This way, the effects would not be optimal. However, it could improve his two eye techniques, the heavenly eye and the divine lightning eye. These two eye techniques had reached a critical juncture. Relying on the superior purity immortal water to make a breakthrough was the best choice. There was no need to elaborate on the process of consuming the divine lightning eye. After the divine lightning eye was refined, Xiao Chen's divine lightning eye stabilized at the third layer. It was no longer like before, where he could barely use it. Now, he could easily layer on 3 bolts of divine lightning and severely injure a prime. The heavenly eye officially entered the next level, reaching the point where it could fly and tunnel through the ground. With just a thought, the heavenly eye could leave his body. It could hover in the 9 heavens or sink into the deep abyss in the ground. Many thanks, Senior. Xiao Chen tested out the 2 advanced eye techniques. Then, he bowed slightly and took his leave. Whoosh! 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 Not long after Xiao Chen left, the black-clad old man, the middle-aged man, and the dragon horse all rushed over excitedly. How did this fellow clear the stages so quickly? Let me take a look at his painting. The dragon horse felt suspicious. When it saw Xiao Chen's painting, it became even more confused. The black-clad old man and the middle-aged man also goggled at each other, unable to understand. However, the dragon horse's intuition told it that the painting was not simple. It looked at the young woman and said, Hong Yi, change the 9 illusions from earlier. Alright, big brother dragon. The young woman did as instructed. After carefully looking at the painting, the dragon horse, the black-clad old man, and the middle-aged man's eyes lit up when they looked at the painting again. Seeing through the finest details, meticulous. This little fellow's eyes are indeed extraordinary. The most unremarkable grass in the crack of a rock at the summit of a desolate mountain. He could make out a swordsman with such an appearance just by looking at a dot on the glacier. Fighting on the battlefield, seeing a person's appearance among millions of people, and having a photographic memory for his martial techniques. An expression of admiration flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes as he muttered to himself, describing the wonders of the painting. The young woman looked at the painting and said, what's even rarer is that he merged all these into one painting. Furthermore, it looks very natural. This kind of inference, as well as his excellent comprehension ability and adaptability, is the most terrifying. The next stage is fear, right? The old dragon horse suddenly said. The 3 showed stunned expressions and fell silent at the same time. Fear. Over the past millions of years, many dragon race outstanding talents had fallen at this stage. This stage was not limited to the Blue Dragon Palace. The inheritance palaces of the other divine dragons had similar stages as well. How many talented, peerless geniuses had fallen at this stage? Too many to count. The final successor of the Blue Dragon bloodline had such an eye-catching performance. Could he clear this stage? Chapter 1494. Chaos reigned outside the Blue Dragon Palace in the savage battlefield. Space shattered, and all sorts of storms accompanied the shards of space, howling as they approached. The area outside the Blue Dragon Palace had already turned into rubble. The ground was cracked and floating in the air. When 6 primes fought, how horrifying would the shock waves be? Without needing to think, one could easily guess that ordinary people would run as far as they could. The damage to the ground was too severe. The Blue Dragon Palace directly soared into the air. Although the battle was ferocious, a formless aura protected the surroundings of the Azure Dragon Palace, allowing it to remain undamaged. During the huge battle, Emperor Forsaken suppressed the Fox King alone. The other 3, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God, surrounded Ingzongtian. The 2 primes were in an incredibly miserable state. Emperor Forsaken's arrangement was extremely vicious. By separating the 2, the other 3 had the absolute advantage against the weaker Ingzongtian. As for the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, he would firmly suppress the Fox King and wait for Ingzongtian to be defeated. By then, it would be 4 against 1, and the Fox King would be defeated even more miserably. At this moment, the Fox King had already revealed his fiend form. The huge nine-tailed spirit fox had scarlet eyes as it faced Emperor Forsaken. The nine-tailed spirit fox was not in the mood to fight and wanted to leave this place. However, Emperor Forsaken did not give it this chance. When the strongest person of the Kunlun realm unleashed his full strength, he was so strong that it was horrifying. The body of the nine-tailed spirit fox was already riddled with wounds. Blood stained its smooth white fur. Due to excessive blood loss, the fur on the nine-tailed spirit fox was now scarlet and wrinkled. The Emperor Forsaken also had many injuries on his body. Clearly, this strongest person of the Kunlun realm had put in his full power. If this was a normal battle in the past, with his strength, there was no need for him to fight so fiercely. He could just slowly wear down the Fox King and defeat him. But today, it was different. There was fire in his heart, and he had long since fought to the point of madness. Inextinguishable divine light, starry sky divine palm. The two palms overlapped, and Emperor Forsaken's most powerful move appeared. The starry sky of the universe appeared, and the stars flickered. They were like ancient gods, emitting boundless radiance, dazzling and moving. Emperor Forsaken's body emitted a tangible divine light that soared into the sky. The tremendous will of holy light was pushed to the limit by him, and the entire space seemed to have frozen. A gigantic god appeared from the depths of the universe and struck out with his palm. With the support of the holy light will, this palm strike was twice as powerful as the one Shao Chen had received previously. Boom! The Fox King, who faced the palm with all his might, could no longer maintain his demon form. He turned back into his human form and spat out a mouthful of blood. The Fox King's face paled, and flames of rage flickered in his eyes. Qitian, are you for real? Emperor Forsaken's expression turned cold as he said, I already said that if you had surrendered, I would not have done this. However, you resisted to the end. In that case, don't blame me for being merciless. To tell you the truth, this is not my full strength. I am much stronger than you imagine. I am much stronger than you imagine. These words were extremely tyrannical. However, when Emperor Forsaken said them, everyone had no choice but to believe them. They had no choice but to be convinced. In the days before the Thunder King disappeared, Emperor Forsaken had never truly made a move. However, today, he was forced into a corner and completely unleashed his full strength. Thinking of this, the Spirit Fox King could not help but feel despair when facing the current Qitian. Facing the current Qitian, the Fox King felt like he was facing the Thunder King from back then. This person had hidden himself very deeply. Actually, the Fox King's strength was already on par with the Thunder King long ago. However, he had been holding it in. On the other side, Zongtian was surrounded by 3 people. His situation was even more miserable. The Kitagarbha Bodhisattva revealed his Dharmic incarnation and used the various Buddhist secret techniques of the immortal epoch to continuously harass Zongtian. Just this person annoyed Zongtian to no end. The heaven-punishing corpse god stuck close to Shao Chen from start to end. Every time Shao Chen exchanged a palm strike with the heaven-punishing corpse god, he felt his internal organs tremble intensely. Furthermore, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor was like a venomous thorn. He attacked the least, but every time he attacked, he would deal the most fatal damage. Several terrifying sword wounds appeared on Shao Chen's body, all from the heaven-punishing corpse god. Zongtian, why bother? If you continue holding on like this, you will die for sure, the heaven-punishing corpse god said indifferently after sending Zongtian flying with a palm strike. Zongtian vomited a mouthful of blood. Then, he smiled and said, what is there to fear about death? In my entire life, I have never been threatened by anyone, much less become a pawn in someone else's hands. Let me tell you this. If you want to use me to threaten Shao Chen, there is no way. At worst, I will just die. Right after Shao Chen spoke, he suddenly spun around like a phantom and threw a palm strike at the Ghost Emperor, who sneak attacked him. Chen beat the ghost emperor until he was covered in wounds. The light of the great sun left him in a sorry state. Zongtian's lips curled up in a mocking smile. He said coldly, "This is an opening that I purposely revealed. You are the most detestable. Even if I die, I will take you down with me." Chen's smile, coupled with the blood on his face, startled the Dongyue ghost emperor. "Ha ha ha. Look at your cowardly appearance. Heaven-punishing corpse, fighting you is still the most enjoyable." Covered in blood, Zongtian's long hair fluttered in the wind. Then, he laughed maniacally and took the initiative to charge at the heaven-punishing corpse god, a prime who had substantiated his Tao with his physical body. "May the Lord Buddha bless you. Benefactor, your malevolence is too heavy." The Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's Buddhist scriptures buzzed and entered Zongtian's mind, slowing his movements and inflicting incredible pain in his mind. Damn it! This bald donkey is at it again. Outside the hall, the two primes used all their means. However, they could not change anything. The disparity in numbers and strength left the two supremes in a sorry and miserable state. Meanwhile, inside the Blue Dragon Hall, Chen also encountered the most difficult stage of the test, fear. The fear of the dragon race, the nightmare of all dragons. Every dragon race member had to overcome this stage before they could truly pass the test. Otherwise, no matter how outstanding one was, one would be eliminated. After stepping into this stage, the instant the stone door descended, Chen's heart skipped a beat. A bad feeling welled up in his heart. This pitch-black space did not allow him to see anything. He could not even see his fingers when he stretched out his hand. Chen kept walking in silence. Aside from the sound of his footsteps, there was only the sound of his heartbeat. For some reason, Chen's heartbeat sped up. Although he could not see anything in the pitch-black space, Chen felt that something was staring at him. Chen felt goosebumps all over his body, and his heartbeat sped up uncontrollably. Whoosh! Suddenly, a pair of green eyes appeared in the dark space, looking exceptionally horrifying. Following that, another pair of eyes appeared. In the next moment, they densely packed together. "What is it?" Suddenly, the light brightened. When Chen saw it clearly, his complexion paled. It was a Ho, the natural enemy of dragons, an extremely strange mutated beast in the world. It ate dragon brains and spat out strange flames. It ate dragons like eating earthworms. When Chen first saw the ghost of a Ho, it was just the ghost of a Ho, yet it scared him so much that he could not move. At this moment, a living Ho appeared before him. Furthermore, it was not one but a group of Ho. A rough count gave about 50 of them. Chen's legs trembled involuntarily, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. It was not because he was weak. This was the most instinctive fear in his body, like a rabbit seeing an eagle. It was the fear of a natural enemy. Chapter 1495. Give up. That was right. Only by giving up could one survive. The girl in her prime said sullenly, "How dangerous. I nearly got crippled by fear. Fortunately, I persevered." However, some things could be dropped, but some things, like backbone, absolutely could not be dropped. Feeling confused, Chen asked, "However, I already chose to give up. Why did you let me pass?" Before this immense fear, the helpless Chen's confidence, which he had built up for a long time, shattered. "Born in this world, you and I are both ordinary people. What Blue Dragon King? What Shadowless Saber Sovereign? They are just empty titles. In the end, he is just an ordinary person." Boom! Chen crashed into the wall. Blood leaked out of a corner of his lips as he revealed a bitter smile. Whoosh! No way! As Chen looked at the group of Ho charging over, he felt despair. He already could not deal with one Ho. How could he deal with 50 odd of them? No matter what the rumors were, these mutated beasts were the natural nemesis of dragons. One Ho fighting 3 dragons alone and not being at a disadvantage, even being able to consume 2 of them, was not an exaggeration. The hoe clawed at Xiao Chen and knocked away the saber in his hand. Although I, Xiao Chen, am just an ordinary person, I cannot lose my backbone. Even if I give up, I have to do it at the last moment. Right now, 50 hoes surrounded me. Xiao Chen's mind went blank. His right hand, which held the saber, felt powerless. This was much easier than Xiao Chen's. However, the old dragon horse shook its head in silence back then. Many thanks. Because this stage is a test of fear. If you can last 15 minutes, you pass. Not only did you last 15 minutes, but you even attacked the hoe. That is enough to pass. Even though Xiao Chen's current strength was not even half of his usual strength, he still had to face fear. Xiao Chen, who had already thought things through, could not lose his backbone. Even if he gave up, he had to persist until the last moment. Holding his saber, Xiao Chen knelt on one knee and looked at the approaching hoe. His eyes were ashen, filled with despair and heart-wrenching pain. Xiao Chen felt dazed for a moment. When he discovered that he was unharmed, he asked in a daze, "What happened?" The dragon horse looked at the last door and said, "This test has already proven that he is different from the Qing Emperor. As long as he passes one more test, he will definitely obtain the inheritance." Those who couldn't stand it would be scared to the point of wetting their pants on the spot. Those who had slightly stronger willpower would only cry out in despair. They wouldn't fare much better. Looking at the young beast now, he would still be afraid and feel that it would be difficult to defeat it. However, the trembling of not being able to hold the saber did not exist anymore. The azure-clothed man explained with a smile on his face. "Fight! Knife, knife, knife." Xiao Chen looked at the pendant suspiciously. He didn't feel that there was anything special about it, but since the other party said so, it must have a miraculous effect. It turned out that he still had so many things he was reluctant to part with. He was also a greedy person. Whoosh! In the face of immense fear, Xiao Chen tossed aside his usual confidence and vanity. This made Xiao Chen realize how ordinary he was. One was the natural enemy of the dragon race, and the other was Xiao Chen, who was not even half as strong as he normally was. The result of this battle went without saying. Move! 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 Hurry up and move! Right now, Xiao Chen's situation was even more miserable. He might even fall to the ground. He was like a successful man in the modern society, standing high above the masses. Xiao Chen was tossed into a cage with a group of ferocious tigers that had starved for 10 days. I can't continue protecting the dragon's gate. I can't go out. I can't do anything. I still have many things to do. I can't die. I absolutely can't die. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chen thought of many things. Many things he had experienced and many people flashed in his mind. When the saber light scattered, Xiao Chen discovered that the 50-odd young beasts were gone. In their place was a yong the size of a small mountain. Immediately, the silence was broken. The yong surrounding Xiao Chen all pounced over, densely surrounding him. Everything you experienced earlier was the carefree illusion. The illusion merged with the souls of some young beasts. Hence, it was so realistic that you did not notice it. Xiao Chen also gave up. However, this time, Xiao Chen was much more at ease. It was like he had already forgotten his fear in the intense battle. I really can't clear this stage. I should just give up. There was nothing funny about this. This was a fear that was born in the bones from the moment one was born. It was very hard to eradicate. Today, Xiao Chen was having such a difficult time. However, Big Brother Dragon said that Xiao Chen would definitely obtain the inheritance. Fortunately, such mutated beasts were extremely rare. They also did not have the ability to reproduce. Otherwise, these mutated beasts would have wiped out the dragon race long ago. I give up. When this group of tigers slowly approached, they would shatter this successful person's demeanor, aura, and confidence. Just as the 50 young beasts were about to pounce over, Xiao Chen finally made his move. Enduring his intense fear, he drew the lunar shadow saber and sent out a resplendent saber light. Everyone was born equal. However, some people lost too many things, while others managed to hold on to some things. It was not that some people were born extraordinary. It was just that they lost fewer things. The green-robed man smiled and pointed to the front. Quickly go. There is still one more stage. Then, you will pass the test. Do your best to obtain the inheritance. If Xiao Qin persisted, only death would await him. Death was like a lamp going out, there was nothing he could do. That was enough. Even if he failed this stage, Xiao Qin had learned many things. However, was he really going to give up? Congratulations, you've passed this stage. Am I going to die? Dong! 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 The moment Xiao Qin left, urgent footsteps rang out. The dragon horse and the others asked anxiously, how was it? How did Xiao Qin perform? If it wasn't for the fact that the dragon spirit guarding the tomb had strengthened the blue dragon marshal's soul in the distant sea dragon tomb, it wouldn't have been able to do so. He was right in saying that it was impossible for the Qing emperor to obtain the inheritance. With a smile, the green-clothed man recounted what had happened earlier in full detail. Dang! There were many legends about Ho. Some said that it was a strange beast born from the void and chaos. Some said that it was transformed from a chaotic god-fiend after its death, while others said that it was a divine pet from the chaotic era. The azure-clothed man took out a pendant and handed it to Xiao Qin. This is a secret treasure of the dragon race. A drop of the dragon race's blood is infused into it. In the future, when you face the young beasts, you will no longer feel fear. It was hard to imagine that the dragon race, one of the great desolate 100 races, would have such a weakness. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Qin was covered in cuts and bruises by the young beast, looking extremely battered and exhausted. He was no different from the others. Damn it! Sweat poured down Xiao Qian's forehead as he did his best to grasp the lunar shadow saber and draw it. However, his right hand was powerless. He clearly wanted to move, but his hand felt like it weighed 5 tons, unable to move. The middle-aged man thought for a while before saying, fear is something that cannot be truly defeated. The most important thing is to face it calmly. For him to understand this principle at the last moment, he is truly remarkable. The scene before Xiao Qin suddenly vanished, and a youth wearing azure robes walked out. Dust to dust, dust to dust. What difference could there be? A Ho ferociously pounced over, opening its mouth as it flew towards Xiao Qin. The Ho looked like a horse with a dragon horn on its head. Its body was covered in scales, and it had a pair of short wings on its back. There was only calmness in its eyes. There was no depression or pain from failure. Whoosh! The black-clothed man simply could not understand. Dang! The black-clothed old man remained silent. Back then, the Qing emperor used the demonic Tao to enter the Tao. After he erased his fear, he passed this stage in an instant. Chapter 1496. This was the final stage of the trial of trial. Once one cleared it, one would pass the test. Of course, whether one could obtain the Dragon Emperor's inheritance was another matter. Xiao Qin opened the stone door, and the scene that entered his eyes was unexpected. There was a large mirror in front. A person that looked exactly like him appeared in it, wearing long white robes and holding the lunar shadow saber. Before Xiao Qin could react, the person in the mirror walked out with a smile, and the mirror shattered at the same time. The final stage, overcoming self. Time limit, 2 hours. This doppelganger is 100% created according to your strength. It is exactly the same as you. It also knows your combat habits like the back of its hand. A voice rang out in the spacious hall, signaling the start of the test. Defeating myself? Before Xiao Qin could think of a countermeasure, the clone in front suddenly vanished. Flawless saber technique, void-breaking stance. This was the first move of Xiao Qian's flawless saber technique. There was no time to think. Xiao Qin made his move, executing the flawless saber technique as well. Dang! Two intense lights flashed in the air. When the sabers clashed, they gave off a metallic sound. The two were evenly matched, each taking 100 steps back. Xiao Qin stood upright while holding his saber. He frowned slightly. This clone's strength was exactly the same as his, not weaker at all. This was somewhat problematic. Given this, no matter how he fought, it would be a draw. It would be hard for him to obtain victory. Furthermore, the requirement for this test was to obtain victory. Furthermore, there was a time limit. Once the battle started in the hall, it could not stop. Two figures that looked exactly the same executed the same martial techniques. From start to end, they were evenly matched. No one could gain the upper hand. Soon, half the test was over. Even so, Xiao Qin still could not think of a countermeasure. When Xiao Qin saw the exact same version of himself doing the exact same actions, he felt like he was looking at a mirror. Such a battle was both boring and depressing. Xiao Qin was very familiar with the various martial techniques of the other party. The other party also knew his martial techniques and combat habits like the back of his hand. After fighting for so long, Xiao Qin wondered if he was living in the mirror or standing outside the mirror. Xiao Qin executed the flawless saber technique, the Taiji saber domain, dermic world, and various other killing moves. However, he could not defeat the other party without exception. As for the divine lightning eye, he did not dare to use it at all. If he used it, both of them would be injured, and it would still be a draw. Seeing that the assessment was about to end, Xiao Qian's heart became more and more anxious. Boom! The doppelganger's blades suddenly changed, and a moment of glory struck Xiao Qin. The condensed scroll sealed the space and locked Xiao Qin in place, making it impossible for him to break free. You and I are of similar strength. If you are distracted, you will definitely lose. The clone said coldly as he looked at Xiao Qin, who was in the glorious painting. Then, he clenched his fist. Kacha kacha. The picture scroll shattered, and so did the space. Xiao Qin spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated into the distance. His body was riddled with wounds from the shards of space. He wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips and smiled bitterly. It truly lives up to being me. As soon as I find an opening, I can immediately grab hold of it. Seeing that he was about to fail, Xiao Qin stood up and asked with some dissatisfaction, "Do you really not have any weaknesses?" The clone held up his saber and pointed it at Xiao Qin. He smiled and said, "I am you, and you are me. Are you asking me, or are you asking yourself?" That's right. This clone is a replica of me. It is the me that walked out of the mirror. When I look at him, it is a mirror. When he looks at me, it is also a mirror. What is my weakness? However, so what if I know? If I can think of it, the other party can think of it as well. Weaknesses are mutual in the first place. Damn it! This seemingly simple stage actually gave Xiao Qin a feeling of incomprehensibility. Mirror, 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 Xiao Qin muttered to himself in his mind. Suddenly, inspiration flashed in Xiao Qian's mind, and he revealed a smile. Why can't I defeat you? It is because I have been fighting with the mirror. Fighting with the person in the mirror, how can I win? When the clone saw this scene, he revealed a mocking smile. Our strengths are about the same, yet you still blinded yourself. That is just seeking death. Xiao Qin took out a strip of cloth and directly covered his eyes. His vision turned dark, and he relied on his 5 senses and spiritual sense to fight with the clone. Before the clone's strange gaze, the blinded Xiao Qin revealed a confident expression and charged over. Dang! 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 An intense battle unfolded once more. However, even though it was clearly the same martial technique this time, the clone was slightly weaker. The clone would also be slightly weaker, not a match for Xiao Qin. It was clearly the same flawless saber technique. However, Xiao Qian's flawless saber technique was ever-changing, elegant and nimble. As for the clone's flawless saber technique, it looked exactly the same. However, it felt like something invisible was binding it. In less than 100 moves, Xiaoqin held the upper hand, slowly accumulating his advantage. When the test reached the final second, Xiaoqin swung his saber and hacked the clone until he vomited blood and could no longer stand up. The victor was immediately decided. Why? The clone felt immense pain, feeling completely confused. Xiaoqin removed the strip of cloth and opened his eyes. I already broke out of the mirror, but you are still fighting with the mirror. How can you not be defeated? Clap! 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 Applause rang out, and the person in charge of the final stage walked out from the darkness. When he heard that, he smiled and said, "What a great breaking out of the mirror, overcoming oneself. Countless people have managed to clear this stage in the past millions of years. But there are very few people like you who can understand the meaning of breaking out of the mirror. Congratulations, Xiaoqin. You have already passed all the tests of this road of trials. You are qualified to obtain the divine dragon bloodline and become a member of the dragon race." Laughter rang out. The old dragon horse led the black-clad old man, the girl in her prime, and the others out, clearly in a good mood. Xiaoqin revealed a smile on his face. Along the way, he had cleared all the stages. He had been somewhat lucky. This was especially so for the third and fourth stages. They had been extremely arduous. Many times, he felt like he had almost given up. The black-clad old man also felt happy for Xiaoqin. He stepped forward and said, "Xiaoqin, Big Brother Dragon thinks very highly of you. After obtaining the inheritance, you will be able to restore the might of the blue dragon. In the future, you will be able to revive the blue dragon bloodline. Congratulations, Brother Xiao. From today on, you are one of us." The others all congratulated Xiaoqin. Even the girl in her prime, who had been indifferent earlier, revealed a smile. Xiaoqin performed cup-fist salutes in return. Then, he asked the old dragon horse to help him refine the blue dragon martial spirit into his bloodline. Whoosh! The dragon horse reverted to its gargantuan dragon form. A dragon claw hovered above Xiaoqian's head, giving off a scarlet light. The dragon horse entered Xiaoqian's head through the dragon claw. Then, it pointed at the blue dragon martial spirit. Xiaoqin immediately fell into a deep sleep, unaware of the outside world. Strange. The old dragon horse revealed a suspicious expression, feeling confused. The others felt it was strange and asked, "What's wrong?" The blue dragon martial spirit in his body seems to have undergone special cultivation and already gained spirituality. Furthermore, it contains the ethereal immortal chi that only existed during the immortal epoch. The black-clad old man frowned and asked, "What does this mean? Big Brother Dragon, please explain." He seems to have cultivated some special cultivation technique before. This blue dragon martial spirit has already mutated. Let me see what kind of cultivation technique is so tyrannical that it can even change the martial spirit of my blue dragon bloodline. The old dragon horse started to check Xiaoqian's body. Soon, it found the purple thunder divine incantation. Then, it activated the primordial energy in Xiaoqian's body and circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. How can this be? When the old dragon horse clearly saw the circulation path of the purple thunder divine incantation, he was greatly startled. The dragon claw left Xiaoqian's head with a whoosh. There is actually such a cultivation technique? Who exactly created this cultivation technique? The old dragon horse was extremely shocked. To think that such a strange cultivation technique like the purple thunder divine incantation existed in the world. This was too incredible. The girl in her prime asked, "Big Brother Dragon, what exactly is this cultivation technique for you to lose your composure like this?" This cultivation technique would not be a peak cultivation technique in the outside world. In fact, it could be said to be far from it. However, it can actually dual cultivate immortal cultivation and martial cultivation, allowing the cultivator to cultivate both the martial Tao and the immortal Tao. This is a cultivation technique for improving one's physique. It is not a true cultivation technique. I really can't figure out the origins of the person who created it. Even the big brother dragon horse was so shocked. That person's origins had to be very shocking. It looks like his origins are not simple. I wonder what the person who created this cultivation technique is planning. The old dragon horse immediately felt doubtful. Should he let Xiaochen refine the dragon blood? Chapter 1497. The old dragon horse's words caused everyone to enter deep thought. No one expected Xiaochen to have such a mysterious background. Everyone started hesitating over whether to refine the blue dragon martial spirit in Xiaochen's body or not. Big brother dragon, he is the only one left of the blue dragon bloodline. Unless he gives birth, he will not have another chance to establish a true blue dragon totem, the young girl said. The middle-aged man said, I feel that little brother Xiaochen can be trusted, no matter what his identity is. His original intentions have always been there. He is not someone who goes back on his word. He is worth trusting. That's right. Big brother dragon, look at him. He chose rewards that can immediately increase his strength. He just wants to save his friends as soon as possible after he gets out. The azure-clad man also spoke up at an appropriate time to console the middle-aged man. Clearly, everyone felt that Xiaochen's blue dragon martial spirit had mutated and that his background was extremely mysterious. However, Xiaochen's character was still trustworthy. They should continue helping him refine the blue dragon martial spirit. After all, Xiaochen was the last blue dragon descendant. If he gave up, perhaps the blue dragon bloodline would truly be finished. It would be like the many branches of the dragon race in history. I hope that I did not do wrong. The old dragon horse sighed. Its dragon claw encased Xiaochen again, and the scarlet spiritual light entered. Bang! The spiritual light directly exploded the blue dragon martial spirit. Then, it quickly merged into Xiaochen's blood. Whoosh! Xiaochen's body immediately gave off waves of multicolored light. It was like an immortal fog, filled with overwhelming spiritual energy and many colors. The silhouette of a blue dragon appeared indistinctly amid the immortal fog. A strong dragon might came from that mysterious blue dragon silhouette. Aside from the old dragon horse, the black-clad old man, the young girl, and the azure-clad man all felt immense pressure. They had no choice but to activate their dragon's might and desperately resist. Most of them were from the Blue Dragon clan. They were genuine descendants of the seven-colored divine dragons. However, at this moment, the outline of the blue dragon that appeared behind Xiaochen made them feel an enormous pressure. This was truly too inconceivable and unbelievable. As time passed, the immortal mist became thicker and thicker. The blue dragon martial soul was further integrated with Xiaochen's blood. The vast dragon might grew even stronger, giving the group a feeling that they could not block it. Roar! The old dragon horse released its claws, and the mist dispersed. A complete blue dragon image appeared behind Xiaochen and glared at the crowd. Sang, sang, sang. Unable to endure it any longer, they spat out mouthfuls of blood and were sent flying. It was as though he had been struck by a heavy object, and he was in excruciating pain. The dragon image vanished, and Xiaochen opened his eyes. A golden light flickered in the depths of his eyes. His eyes glowed with a resplendent golden light. Xiaochen did not notice anything strange. When he saw the black-clad old man and the others flying back while vomiting blood, he asked in confusion, "Seniors, what's wrong?" The azure-clad man smiled bitterly and said, "If I said that you did all this, would you believe me?" "I did it." The old dragon horse said sullenly, "All right. Xiaochen, scatter the great desolate divine light in your eyes first." Great desolate divine light? What is that? After a while, Xiaochen discovered the strange state of his eyes. After trying it once, he quickly scattered the golden light in his eyes. This great desolate divine light is really resplendent. No wonder the dragon might is so intense. For a divine light of this level, the quality of his bloodline should be extremely high. The few people discussed in soft voices as they looked at Xiao Chen. However, this confused Xiao Chen. Seniors, what is this great desolate divine light? The old dragon horse said, let me explain it to you. The great desolate Aeon is second only to the primal chaos mythological era. Hence, it is also known as the secondary mythological era. Our great desolate 100 races were like gods in the entire great desolate Aeon's 10,000 races. The unique characteristic of the great desolate 100 races is the golden divine light in the eyes. This divine light is not only a symbol of status but also has many other uses. You will come to know about this in the future. Now, let me test the quality of your blue dragon bloodline. The explanation allowed Xiao Chen to understand what the great desolate divine light was. However, a new question appeared. There are differences in the quality of the blue dragon bloodline as well. That is natural. Even if one has a divine dragon bloodline, the quality of the bloodline differs. Their future accomplishments might be worlds apart. The old dragon horse led Xiao Chen to a spirit pool. Then, it got Xiao Chen to drip some blood into the spirit pool. Soon, the clear spirit pool started to change color. First, it turned azure. Then, it quickly turned red. Azure, red, black, white, silver, gold, and blue. After a total of 7 colors, the spirit pool stopped. The black-clad old man smiled and said, the quality of a bloodline is split into 7 grades. The more colors it changes, the higher the quality. Xiao Chen, your divine dragon bloodline is the peak divine dragon bloodline. The azure-clad old man also smiled and said, indeed, as expected. With such a high-quality divine dragon bloodline and the inheritance, there is hope for the blue dragon race to rise again. The few people were not too surprised by the quality of Xiao Chen's bloodline. After all, the dragon might and the great desolate divine light in his eyes already revealed many suspicions. However, just at this moment, something strange happened. The ever-changing spirit pool suddenly turned purple. Adding the previous 7 colors, Xiao Chen changed into a total of 8 colors. Furthermore, the last color was purple, which no one had ever heard of before. What's going on? The 7-colored divine dragons? I have never heard of a purple dragon before. The azure-clad old man was startled, showing confusion on his face. This scene stunned the others as well, all of them looking at the old dragon horse. The old dragon horse said sullenly, it's because of that cultivation technique. His dragon race bloodline has already mutated. The old dragon horse's expression suddenly turned extremely grave as it looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, don't ever tell anyone about this. Otherwise, the entire great desolate 100 races will target you. Xiao Chen wanted to ask something, but the old dragon horse interrupted him. Unwilling to say more, it directly said, go to the inheritance hall and see if you can obtain the inheritance. Since the other party was unwilling to say more, Xiao Chen could not force it. He could only suppress the questions in his heart and follow the old dragon horse to the inheritance hall. The instant Xiao Chen entered the inheritance hall, he suddenly discovered a void under his feet. When he looked up, he saw a sky full of stars and a boundless universe. This is the inheritance hall. Is there a mistake? However, the old dragon horse and the others showed grave and respectful expressions. Dragon Emperors, of my blue dragon bloodline, today, the new master of the Blue Dragon Palace, Xiao Chen, is here to pay respects to the ancestor. Ancestor, please take a look. The old dragon horse said respectfully to the boundless starry heavens with an incredibly grave expression. Whoosh! Right after the old dragon horse spoke, pairs of cold dragon eyes suddenly appeared in the distant starry heavens. These eyes covered up all the starlight in the starry heavens. A boundless ancient aura spread out, and the many pairs of dragon eyes fixed on Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen immediately felt like he could not move at all. An invisible force held him in place. The black-clad old man and the others did not even dare to breathe loudly as they waited anxiously. If Xiao Chen could not obtain the inheritance, no matter how outstanding he was, he might end up like the Qing Emperor. As they waited anxiously, time seemed to pass by like a year. Every minute and every second felt extremely long. Whoosh! Suddenly, among the 100-odd pairs of dragon eyes in the distant starry heavens, a pair of dragon eyes suddenly turned golden. The pair of golden eyes looked like two blazing golden flames in the starry heavens, completely suppressing the starlight. It's done! The old dragon horse and the others revealed joy on their faces. This meant that the ancestor dragon emperor had taken a liking to Xiao Qian and was willing to leave the inheritance for him. Whoosh! 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 In the next moment, the many pairs of dragon eyes lit up one after another. The light in their eyes flickered brightly. They were the most resplendent stars in the starry heavens. The light flickered endlessly. The many pairs of dragon eyes seemed to be competing with each other, all wanting to pass the inheritance to Xiao Qian. The ancestor actually started fighting for Xiao Qian. This only happened during the most flourishing period of the blue dragon bloodline. The old dragon horse's voice trembled. It was so excited that it could not contain itself. This scene was simply too shocking. The old dragon horse had guarded the blue dragon palace from ancient times until now. It had personally witnessed the blue dragon bloodline's rise from glory to its current decline. Now that it saw this scene, it felt too deeply moved. Just at this moment, something strange happened. A pair of golden eyes with scarlet flames suddenly flickered in the even more distant starry heavens. When this dragon eye appeared, the other dragon eyes that were competing with each other all vanished, retreating as if they had seen a king. The boundless starry heavens suddenly turned pitch black. Only that pair of golden eyes with scarlet flames shone brightly. Chapter 1498. Xiao Qian asked softly, "Does this count as me surpassing Prime?" The boundless starry heavens were pitch black. Only this pair of golden dragon eyes with scarlet flames could be seen. Xiao Qian smiled bitterly and helplessly. "Master, so be it. In any case, it is just a form of address." Intense pain spread through Xiao Qian's entire body. He could not help roaring, and his long hair stood on end. When the Dragon Emperor was alive, he was known as the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor, who advocated stopping killing with killing. While the Dragon Emperor was not the strongest Dragon Emperor in history, he was definitely the most spirited and legendary. Red Snow gave Xiao Qian a simple explanation, allowing Xiao Qian to understand a little, although he still did not fully understand. The moment Xiao Qian said that, he immediately discovered that the old dragon horse, the black-clad old man, and the others' expressions changed slightly. The dragon eyes stared at Xiao Qian, who felt immense pressure. It was far from what the earlier dragon eyes could compare to. Because of the Dragon Emperor's appearance, no one dared to offend the dragon race. That was the dragon race's most glorious period. Their fame spread far and wide, shaking the world. Upon seeing Xiao Qian's pale complexion and blood seeping out of his skin, Ao Jiao looked anxiously at the old dragon horse and asked, "Big brother dragon, will Xiao Qian be fine?" Red Snow entered deep thought and said, "Although the strength that Master currently grasps is similar to that of a prime, in reality, they have not surpassed Emperor Wu yet. Furthermore, Master already broke through the restrictions and has a limitless future. It would not be wrong to say that he surpassed Prime." Since Xiao Qian obtained the inheritance, he was already the master of the Blue Dragon Palace. However, Xiao Qian had always looked down on seniority. Even if Xiao Qian was a master, there was no need to bow. This pair of dragon eyes was not much different from other dragon eyes. However, there was now a scarlet flame in the depths of his eyes, causing others to tremble in fear. Strange. What's going on? Whoosh. There is a saying in the outside world, to become a god, one must first become a human. Becoming a human is becoming a true human. In the outside world, a veritable personage realm cultivator can barely be considered an expert. The blue dragon bloodline had been passed down for millions of years for countless epochs. There were more than 200 dragon emperors. Although there were many, they were not particularly difficult to remember. The moment Xiao Qian opened his eyes, he saw the old dragon horse, the azure-clad old man, and the other blue dragon palace's item spirits kneeling in salute. A strong murderous chi spread from Chen's body, making him look incredibly berserk. The lake was formed by primordial energy, but the power it contained seemed to be higher than primordial energy. Xiao Chen's appearance frightened Ao Jiao. She quickly came out of the lunar shadow saber and hugged him. As Dragon Chen saying, Dragon Chen, the dragon, he spirit, he said. Chen's dragon Chen's Yuan said, no, Chen and, I said. When he thought of this, Xiao Chen's face turned slightly pale, and he felt a wave of unprecedented nervousness. Xiao Chen's 5 viscera and 6 bowels, as well as the most important part of his brain, were enveloped by a mysterious force. His injuries looked serious on the outside, but in fact, he didn't suffer any serious internal injuries. There was a loud bang. Before Xiao Chen could react, the Purple Emperor's door was completely shattered. Seeing the doubt in Xiao Chen's eyes, the old dragon horse said, Red Snow, give him a simple explanation of his current situation. Hearing this, Ao Jiao quickly checked on Xiao Chen's condition. It was just as the man in green had said. The old dragon horse said, let's not talk about this first. I'll bring you to the martial technique pavilion, the profound weapon pavilion, and the various cultivation rooms in the Blue Dragon Palace to choose some treasures. The black-clothed old man whispered, with his body's condition, he should be able to recover very quickly. No matter how hard they tried, they could not think of a dragon emperor whose eyes were burning with bloody flames. However, the gist of it was that the dragon emperor relied on the blood-soaked dragon emperor's inheritance to forcefully break through Emperor Wu's restrictions. The azure-clad man, the girl in her prime, and the others were completely stupefied before this huge pressure. When they sent their spiritual senses into their bodies, they were greatly shocked. The spot where the heart of an emperor originally was had turned into a lake of clear water, giving off a refreshing energy. The old dragon horse muttered to itself, feeling extremely excited. Only that old dragon horse's eyes brimmed with hot tears, so excited that it could not control itself. Tears flowed endlessly as if it had seen something incredible. The red-clad girl in her prime nodded with a smile. Then, she looked at Xiao Chen and said, the Kunlun realm's Emperor Wu's 9 heavens are known as the 9 heavens of transcending mortality outside the abandoned land. After crossing these 9 heavens, one is no longer an ordinary person but a veritable personage. Not long after, Xiao Chen felt his head grow heavy. He opened his eyes and rubbed his acupoints vigorously. The pain was too intense. Xiao Chen did not last long before he fainted. Today, not only did Xiao Chen get dragon emperors to fight for him, but he even startled the blood-soaked dragon emperor, the strongest person in the history of the blue dragon bloodline. At this moment, the black-clad old man felt somewhat complicated. Back then, the Qing emperor was not much weaker than Xiao Chen. In some aspects, he was even stronger. However, not a single dragon emperor opened his eyes for him. It could only be said that the affairs of the world were unpredictable. The moment the black-clad old man said that, everyone else was greatly startled. The emperor's door shattered, and his heart of an emperor was destroyed. Would he be crippled? Xiao Chen quickly felt startled. He stood up and said, Seniors, please get up. There is no need to do this. Whoosh! The mysterious dragon eyes suddenly appeared, making all the flickering golden light vanish. The azure-clad man continued with a pleasant expression, don't worry. Although Master Xiao Chen is currently weaker, the Dragon Emperor's inheritance knows its limits. It will automatically divert some energy to protect his vital points. That should be enough to keep him alive. Only at this point did Ao Jiao relax, and her emotions eased significantly. Xiao Chen's expression changed. What is he trying to do? Based on this unrelenting stance, it seems like he wants to shatter his Purple Emperor's door. The dragon horse said in a somewhat choked voice, This is my old master, the creator of the Blue Dragon Palace, the strongest dragon emperor in the history of the Blue Dragon bloodline. Which dragon emperor is this? My Blue Dragon bloodline has had 200 dragon emperors, but there has never been such a dragon emperor. Big Brother Dragon, who is this? A great desolate divine light burst out of the dragon horse's eyes uncontrollably. The golden divine light looked like it would pierce through the sky. Then, the shock waves swept out, affecting the entire heart of an emperor. Kasie! Kasie! Under the strong might of the dragon roar, the heart of an emperor could not bear the burden and shattered. Then, the dragon roar flew towards the mysterious purple emperor's door in the heart of an emperor at lightning speed. It turned into a jade-like dragon seal and entered the heart of an emperor. Then, the dragon seal shot out like a meteor. That pair of dragon eyes vanished in the void, replaced by a beam of golden light. It crossed the starry heavens in the blink of an eye and entered Xiao Chen's body. "Greetings, Master." At this moment, the old dragon horse had already recovered to its normal state. It said calmly, "It's fine." He just temporarily could not endure the power of the blood-soaked dragon emperor's inheritance and fell unconscious. However, the deeds of this dragon emperor were known by everyone in the dragon tribe. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was one of the greatest dragon emperors in the history of the dragon race. A thought occurred to Xiao Chen. Then, he thought of proper business and said quickly, "There is no rush for this. I want to go outside and take a look at my big brother and the Fox King's situation first." Xiao Chen. The veritable personage realm is divided into 3 stages, the veritable essence stage, the yin essence stage, and the yang essence stage. Master is currently in the veritable essence stage. Thank you, Master. The heavens are fair. I thought that old Master's inheritance would never appear again. The heavens are blessing my blue dragon bloodline. The heavens are truly fair. A scarlet pupil appeared in the depths of Xiao Chen's eyes amid the golden divine light. This gave this golden divine light an additional burning scarlet flame, looking extremely strange. Suddenly, Xiao Chen recalled that the blood-soaked dragon emperor's dragon seal inheritance seemed to have pierced through his emperor's door and heart of an emperor. Chapter 1499. Outside the Blue Dragon Palace, half a day had passed since Xiao Chen entered the Blue Dragon Palace. Ying Zongtian was fighting against 3 enemies at the same time. He was already at the end of his tether and was covered in wounds. At this moment, he was lying on the ground, unable to crawl back up. His entire person was extremely weak. Among the 3, apart from the Dongyue Ghost Emperor who was more heavily injured, the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God and the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva were in relatively good condition. However, it consumed a lot of energy and needed some time to recover. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor flew to Ying Zongtian's side in a flash. When he saw Ying Zongtian struggling to get up, he kicked him back down. "Ying Zongtian, weren't you very arrogant just now?" The Dongyue Ghost Emperor gritted his teeth and said angrily. During the battle, he was the one who suffered the heaviest injuries. Ying Zongtian had even humiliated him several times, which made him rather unhappy. There were a few times when he almost found an opportunity to perish together with him. Now that the other party was finally unable to put up a fight, it was only natural for him to take revenge. So. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God quickly arrived. When the Heaven-Punishing Corpse God saw the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's actions, he frowned slightly and said, "Ghost Emperor, don't go overboard. The deity sovereign still wants to use him to threaten Xiao Chen." The Dongyue Ghost Emperor said calmly, "Don't worry, I won't die. I know what I'm doing." After saying that, she was about to move her legs away from Ying Zongtian. After venting his anger, although he was still displeased, he knew that the Divine Emperor's matter was of utmost importance. He could not really kill Ying Zongtian. Puchi. Ying Zongtian coughed a few times and spat out a mouthful of blood. He smiled bitterly and said, "I, Ying Zongtian, have been a wanderer all my life and have always thought highly of myself. I didn't expect to fall under your feet." The Dongyue Ghost Emperor was stunned. He moved his foot away and pressed it down again. "Who do you think you are to think so highly of yourself? When I became a supreme being, you weren't even worth a fart. Is Jizun very powerful? If I wanted to, I would have become a supreme long ago." Ying Zongtian smirked as he looked at the Dongyue Ghost Emperor with disdain. The Heaven-Punishing Corpse God remained silent. He knew that he was no match for Ying Zongtian. If it wasn't for the fact that they were fighting 3 against 1, it would be very difficult for him to subdue the other party. Xiaochen did not want to say anything more. He knew that back then, Yingzongtian had been a greater heavenly emperor Wu for 1,000 years. However, he had not advanced to sovereign martial emperor, wanting to break through and surpass Prime. However, for some reason, he gave up on this idea. Then, during Xiaochen's king conferral ceremony, he suddenly appeared as a Prime. Winner takes all. Right now, I'm the one who has you under my feet. Whatever you say is useless. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor's eyes turned cold as he ruthlessly stomped on the Dongyue Ghost Emperor again. However, when the Dongyue Ghost Emperor tried to move his feet away, he discovered a pair of hands firmly grasping his feet like pincers. No matter what he did, he could not move them away. I said it before. Even if I die, I will drag you down with me. The heart of an emperor in Yingzongtian's body suddenly gave off a bright light. His entire body lit up like a candle, burning up quickly. Self-detonation. Xiaochen was going to self-detonate. To think that a Prime would use such a decisive method to end his own life. All of a sudden, the 3 of them were scared silly. Without even thinking, the heaven-punishing corpse god fled quickly. The fear of death overwhelmed the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, scaring him silly. Then, he started shouting frantically, "Let go! Let go!" However, no matter how the heaven-punishing corpse god shouted, it was useless. Yingzongtian held on to his feet, unwilling to let go. In the Blue Dragon Palace, Xiaochen, who felt that something was wrong, rushed out anxiously. When he saw this scene, he was immediately startled. He cried out hoarsely, "Big brother, don't!" Based on the expressions of the old dragon horse and the others, Xiaochen had already guessed that Yingzongtian and the Fox King were in a bad situation. However, he had not expected to force a Prime to the point of self-detonation. Emperor Forsaken. Xiaochen called out this person's name coldly in his heart. Then, he quickly ran towards Yingzongtian, who was about to self-detonate. However, it was already too late. Before Xiaochen could get far, he heard a startling explosion. A blazing light soared into the sky. At the center of the explosion, the 2 died on the spot. This explosion stunned Emperor Forsaken, the heaven-punishing corpse god, and the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. Primes were the strongest existences in the Kunlun realm. They were aloof and stood at the top of the pyramid, possessing a high status. However, such an existence actually chose to self-detonate, taking the initiative to end his own life. Xiaochen, who was running, was caught off guard. The shock waves from the explosion sent him flying. He fell heavily to the ground and bounced far away before he stood up again. There was still a chance. Big Brother died for only 1 second. If Xiaochen could stop the other party from self-detonating 2 seconds earlier, he could change the future. It was just like when Xiaochen weakened Emperor Forsaken's Starry Heaven's divine palm. However, Xiaochen was already dead. If he wanted to travel to the space where the dead once lived, it would be like crossing the boundary between life and death. The obstacles that Xiaochen faced were even stronger than when he faced Emperor Forsaken. State of cycle, reversing time and space. Xiaochen could not care so much anymore. A determined expression flashed in his eyes. The cycle heart in his sea of consciousness released a light, unleashing it without holding anything back. Xiaochen took a step, and a huge resistance assaulted him, nearly tearing Xiaochen to shreds. Charge! The veritable essence energy in Xiaochen's body surged out, forming a strong sharpness in front of Xiaochen. Infused with great Tao energy, Xiaochen finally managed to leap out, breaking through the boundary between life and death. With only 1 second to make a move, Xiaochen did not hesitate. The instant he appeared, he pointed. The heavenly snow divine flame poured out, directly sealing the defenseless Yingzongtian in ice. Seeing the light on Yingzongtian's body dim, Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief. Success! The time just ended. A mighty force pulled Xiaochen's body back to the future. When Xiaochen opened his eyes, he saw that Yingzongtian was completely sealed in ice. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor struggled free and glanced at the ice-sealed Zongtian. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor felt confused. However, in the next moment, a vicious expression flashed in his eyes. No matter what the reason was, Zongtian could not move at all, sealed in the mysterious ice. This was the best opportunity to deal with him. Without even thinking, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor kicked the ice-sealed Zongtian. If this kick landed, Zongtian would shatter into a pile of ice on the spot, dying without a complete corpse. Stop! Xiao Chen, who had gone through a lot of trouble to use the state of cycle to save Zongtian, naturally would not allow this to happen. Xiao Chen leaped into the air and threw a punch. Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, Distant Legend. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor felt a cold wind behind him, and his hair stood on end. A sense of danger assaulted him. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor quickly turned around. When he saw Xiao Chen coming out, his face immediately lit up in joy. Xiao Chen. I was waiting for you. To think that you would walk right into my trap. Boom. However, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor had just finished speaking when he was sent flying by Xiao Chen's punch. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. He vomited a mouthful of blood and slid far away. How is this possible? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor was at a loss when he landed on the ground. He was heavily injured, and his strength was not even 50% of his usual strength. However, it was not difficult for him to hold back Xiao Chen with his strength. However, the reality was that Xiao Chen easily knocked him back with a punch from the air. The might of this punch was vaguely stronger than when the Dongyue Ghost Emperor was at his peak. Damn it! I don't believe it. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor could not accept this reality. He slammed his palm on the ground and soared into the air. Then, he punched at Xiao Chen with a ghostly aura filling the air. This punch dyed the sky black. Xiao Chen turned around and circulated his quintessential energy in front of his chest, using his body to receive the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's punch. Buzz! It was as if the punch had landed on a metal mountain. It was stable and did not move at all. The Dongyue Ghost Emperor's face darkened, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He wanted to retreat. Swoosh! But in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, a hand appeared like a lightning dragon that broke through the clouds in the dark night. It grabbed his neck and lifted him up. Xiao Chen, let him go. At this moment, Emperor Forsaken and the other two brought the restrained the Fox King over. Chapter 1500. Although the Dongyue Ghost Emperor was captured, Qitian revealed a smile on his face. This was because Xiao Chen finally came out. Not only did Xiao Chen come out, but he also used up the power of the state of cycle. He would not have to worry about that move for a while. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at Emperor Forsaken and the other two. Qitian, what are you trying to do? Are you crazy? In Xiao Chen's opinion, Qitian was really crazy. To think that he dared to fall out with a prime. If Qitian was not careful, he would end up burying a huge problem for himself, implicating two primes as enemies. Although Emperor Forsaken was strong, he could not stop others from sneak attacking the other members of the deity race. Qitian said indifferently, cut the crap. Tell me all the secrets of the Blue Dragon Palace Hall. Return all the benefits you obtained in there as well. Otherwise, even if you can save Zongtian for now, you will not be able to save him forever. Oh, right. There is also this. I believe you will not watch as your senior fiend king dies, right? Emperor Forsaken said fearlessly as he stretched out his hand and lifted up the Fox King. In order to prevent the Fox King from self-destructing, Emperor Forsaken did not hesitate. After Emperor Forsaken defeated Xiao Chen, he immediately sealed all of Xiao Chen's strength. However, Emperor Forsaken was not in a good state either. The Fox King's counterattack was not that easy to deal with. However, it did not matter. Emperor Forsaken was in control of the situation. Given Xiao Chen's character, it was impossible for him to ignore his senior and big brother. This was Xiao Chen's Achilles heel. Xiao Chen's heart sank. He did not expect Emperor Forsaken to have such an idea. He was truly crazy. For an illusory goal, Emperor Forsaken actually used such a despicable method. The so-called number one person of the Kunlun realm was truly shameless. Interesting. Truly interesting. Xiaoqin smiled coldly in his heart. His killing intent was like magma in the ground, slowly settling. Ever since the coronation ceremony, Emperor Forsaken had been looking for trouble. Whoosh! You are overthinking. It is useless even if you know the secret of the Blue Dragon Palace. I can't give you the benefits that I obtained. Most importantly. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled into a cold smile as he looked at the three of them. His cold eyes did not contain any emotion. What is it? Emperor Forsaken's heart skipped a beat. He obviously didn't believe it. We'll talk after I finish killing them. Everything else was fine, but the Dongyue Ghost Emperor who almost killed Big Brothering had to die. Kacha! With a wave of his left hand, a saber light flashed, and the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's head flew into the air. Carrying the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's headless body, Xiaoqin tossed it away as if it was a piece of trash. With a loud explosion, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's head exploded into a splatter of blood and disappeared. Dead, the prime of the Ghost Domain, a Ghost Emperor, died at Xiaoqian's hands. You, the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, the heaven-punishing corpse god, and Emperor Forsaken were stunned. They did not expect Xiaoqin to be so ruthless. A prime's head would not die after it was chopped off, but it had to be reattached. Without a head, a headless body was naturally as dead as it could be. Whoosh! Countless motes of light scattered from the headless body. Those were the Dongyue Ghost Emperor's life essence. The place fell silent. The three primes were truly dumbfounded. Xiaoqin, do you know what you did? The heaven-punishing corpse god pointed at Xiaoqin, his voice trembling slightly. I know. I killed a dog. Do you really think that you are unrivaled? The heaven-punishing corpse god roared and clenched his fist. 10,000 dragon force instantly burst forth. The heaven-punishing corpse god's punch arrived before Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin did not show any fear. He circulated his veritable essence energy, and an aura that surpassed that of a prime burst out from his body. Then, he clenched his right fist and infused his veritable essence energy into it. Boom! An intense explosion resounded, and a strong wind blew. Xiaoqian's long hair and clothes fluttered loudly. Xiaoqin forcefully received this punch, not moving an inch, not taking a single step back. Corroborating the Tao with the physical body, you are only a so-so. Xiaoqin smiled coldly as he infused his great Tao energy into his punch. A Tao disc appeared behind him. As he stood there, he looked like a treasured saber drawn from its scabbard. Boundlessly resplendent, radiating resplendent light. His fist was the saber that he sealed. Initially, they were evenly matched. After infusing his great Tao energy, Xiaoqin pushed forward and sent the heaven-punishing corpse god flying. The white-robed Xiaoqin, whose long hair fluttered in the wind, still did not take even half a step back. Surpassing Prime? A complicated expression flashed in Emperor Forsaken's eyes as he muttered to himself, it turns out that the Blue Dragon Palace really does contain the secret to breaking through to Prime. The energy that Xiaoqin used clearly came from primordial energy. However, it was one level higher than primordial energy. Given Xiaoqian's insight, he definitely did not see wrong. Only at this moment did the three understand that the Dongyue Ghost Emperor did not die in vain. Attack together later. Do not show any mercy. We cannot be careless at all. Emperor Forsaken sent a voice projection to the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva and the heaven-punishing corpse god. A strange look flashed in the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's eyes. It seemed like he had other plans. However, after thinking for a while, he agreed to Emperor Forsaken's suggestion. As for the heaven-punishing corpse god, he had just been sent flying by Xiaoqian's palm strike and suffered. How could he have any thoughts of refusing? Emperor Forsaken said, you have indeed broken through the shackles of a prime. We can have a proper discussion. As long as you are willing to tell me the secret, I can immediately release the Fox King. Xiao Chen shook his head and said, "You are overthinking. I said that we can have a discussion. If you apologize to me immediately and release the Spirit Fox King, I can consider letting you go after some consideration." Ha ha ha. Emperor Forsaken guffawed as if he had heard something funny. He said coldly, "You are really boundlessly arrogant. Attack." The three immediately unleashed their killing chi without hiding it. Emperor Forsaken's body glowed with a resplendent holy light. Then, he soared into the sky and formed a holy sword, chopping down at Xiao Chen. The Kittagarbha Bodhisattva revealed his huge dharmic true body. A Buddhist hand covered half the sky, carrying a supreme Buddhist might as it smashed down at Xiao Chen. The heaven-punishing corpse god secretly stored up power, waiting for Xiao Chen to clash with the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva before giving him a peak strike. Xiao Chen coldly watched the three's actions. 3 black petals spun in the depths of his eyes and layered over each other. Before Emperor Forsaken, who had just condensed a holy light sword, could react, the holy light sword broke. Bolts of electric light shot out from Emperor Forsaken's body. Wounds covered his body, and he vomited a mouthful of blood as he went flying. The divine lightning. I only needed one glance to send down a lightning tribulation, deciding life and death. 3 lightning tribulations layered over each other. Even a prime would be severely injured. Dharmic world. After sending Emperor Forsaken flying with one glance, Xiao Chen's body trembled and became incredibly huge, matching the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's dharmic world. The Buddha's hand, which had covered half the sky, now looked mediocre. He lifted his foot. Xiao Chen raised his leg and kicked the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's dharmic body away at lightning speed. The Buddhist light that filled the sky overflowed in all directions, scattering everywhere. Die! The heaven-punishing corpse god held his breath. The instant Xiao Chen recovered his true form, his body shot forward like a sharp arrow. Then, he unleashed his peak strike. The heaven-punishing corpse god used his physical body to substantiate his Tao. If this punch landed on Xiao Chen, he would be severely injured, even if Xiao Chen was prepared. When the heaven-punishing corpse god punched, space trembled, and Xiao Chen directly shattered. The heaven-punishing corpse god smiled. However, after a while, wind suddenly whistled behind him. He immediately felt that something was wrong and quickly turned around. Whoosh! However, it was too late. The instant the heaven-punishing corpse god turned around, a saber light appeared. The transcendent divine weapon, the lunar shadow saber, executed the dragon-subduing slash and struck the heaven-punishing corpse god's chest. An arrow of blood spurted out of the heaven-punishing corpse god's chest, even though his physical body had never been broken before. Xiao Chen flapped his blue dragon divine wings and hovered in the air. As he held up the lunar shadow saber, he looked coldly at the 3 people who were instantly knocked back. Xiao Chen's body exuded a tyrannical air that looked down on the world, aloof, cold, and emotionless. The blue dragon divine wings on Xiao Chen's back flapped, and a boundless strong wind scattered the clouds for 5,000 kilometers around. Then, he appeared before Emperor Forsaken as if he teleported. Xiao Chen pointed his saber at Emperor Forsaken's forehead. Congratulations on becoming the strongest person in the Kunlun realm. From today on, you will sweep through the world, unrivaled. Emperor Forsaken paled as he revealed a bitter smile. I already thought of the consequences of failure long ago. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Do as you please. Strongest in the Kunlun realm. You are overthinking. I have never treated you as a goal to chase after. Chapter 1501. A bright light flickered in Ing Zongtian's eyes as he said excitedly. As soon as he finished speaking, the 5 figures disappeared into the sky, leaving a shadow in Xiao Chen's heart. In the distance, some extremely terrifying battle seemed to be taking place. Just then, the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva took advantage of the moment the 2 were talking to turn into a beam of light and flee. Xiao Chen recalled that when he broke through to Martial Monarch, the energy he grasped was also known as quintessence. From then on, Qian no longer saw Emperor Forsaken as a goal, no matter how he looked at it. Sooner or later, Qian would surpass his opponent. It was just a matter of time. One had unlimited potential, while the other had exhausted his potential. Emperor Forsaken was straightforward and didn't hide anything. In fact, he was not wrong. Just as he had guessed, the Blue Dragon Palace did contain the secret to breaking through to the supremacy stage. However, it was not prepared for him, but for Qian. The 5 phantoms were the top experts of the various clans that guarded Kunlun Mountain. Apart from guarding Kunlun Mountain, they did not interfere in any worldly battles. In order to become a god, one had to first become a human. He knew that from now on, he could only look up to Qian, and there was no possibility of surpassing him. Letting him go was a sign of Qian's confidence in his own strength. It was also a form of wisdom. He didn't want to push him too hard. The heaven-abandoning deity sovereign stood up and bowed with a cupped fist salute. That day, after Qian transcended the heavenly tribulation, he showed up once. When Qian broke free from Emperor Wu's restraints and became a perfected being, he grasped the power of true essence. The power of veritable essence energy was already comparable to the power grasped by many primes. Qian scattered the blue dragon divine wings and sheathed his saber. He said sullenly, "Why did you not summon the deity race old ancestor? If you summoned the deity race old ancestor, it would be sufficient to defeat me." In an instant, he had defeated 3 supreme beings and forced Emperor Forsaken to lower his head and apologize. Emperor Forsaken was a little absent-minded. "From me as a target?" "That's right. I was originally a failure who did not even dare to walk the Kunlun road." Qian immediately withdrew the heavenly snow divine flame and removed Ingzongtian from his frozen state. There were 3 primes overseeing the heavenly starry ocean. Could there be any major trouble? Go take a look for yourself and you'll know. There's no need to say anything else. Life was unpredictable. No one knew what would happen in the future. What's going on? What happened in the heavenly starry ocean? Even a battle between primes should not have such a terrifying aura. A simple comparison could easily be made. Qian nodded. "You can say that. This time, it's really been hard on the 2 seniors." "Yes." In the Battle of the Blue Dragon Palace, the deity Dao Union suffered heavy casualties, losing a prime. Emperor Forsaken completely gave up and did not want to say anything more. After releasing the Fox King's restraints, he left with the heaven-punishing corpse god. Furthermore, Qian's great Dao energy and state of cycle were just superficial. However, in the blink of an eye, Emperor Forsaken felt speechless bitterness and a strange heartache. "Ha ha ha ha. Good. 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 Back then, for the sake of protecting him, I gave up on accumulations and broke through to Prime. The facts prove that my choice was not wrong. There really is a peak above Prime." Surpassing the heaven-abandoning deity sovereign was something that happened naturally. It was not hard to understand. Ingzongtian could not help feeling excited. He was right. He had waited 10 years for this day. The 2 could not be mentioned in the same breath. Although Qian kept thinking about the matter of the heavenly starry ocean, he still had to treat Big Brother Ying's injuries first. His tone was cold. Clearly, he hated the Dongyue Ghost Emperor to the bone. If he did not kill him, he would not be able to vent this hatred. Qian's heart immediately sank. Either these 5 did not show themselves, or when they did, something major had happened. "Haotian, don't be agitated. You just recovered," the Fox King advised. That was the direction of the heavenly starry ocean. The Fox King smiled and said, "He is not dead. He is still alive and well." After Qian left the palace, he defeated the heaven-punishing corpse god, the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, and Emperor Forsaken by himself. Whoosh! 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 Qian narrowed his eyes, wanting to give chase. He could let go of Emperor Forsaken, but he absolutely could not let go of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. He wondered what the situation of the martial epoch and the great thousand realms outside was like. Many thanks. There is no need to give chase, Blue Dragon King. You should return to the heavenly starry ocean first. After a fortuitous encounter in the Blue Dragon Palace, I finally made a breakthrough. What about the Dongyue Ghost Emperor? Ing Zongtian asked with a somewhat cold expression when he suddenly thought of this person. It is not that I do not want to, but that I cannot. The price of summoning the deity race ancestor is much higher than you think. Even if I summon him out, I might not be able to kill you. However, I will definitely not be far from death. In less than 2 months, Xiaochen would have to turn around. He still needed the other party to show mercy before he could leave. Then, he would circulate his veritable essence energy and infuse it into the other party's body. After all, Xiaochen could still summon the deity race ancestor and still have some combat prowess. If he pushed too hard, he would end up in a life and death struggle. The Fox King smiled and said, "It's fine. You being able to break through to Prime is what the Haotian and I hope to see the most. Let's not talk about this for now. Quickly treat the Haotian's injuries. Seniors, what's going on with the heavenly starry ocean? There's no need. You should be thanking yourself. My big brother Ing and the Fox King are not dead. Otherwise, even if I have to fight to the end, I will take your life. Furthermore, with the support of great Tao energy, he might even be stronger than the other party. You may go. From today on, our grudges are written off." Xiaochen looked indifferently at Emperor Forsaken. Then, he said something that shocked Emperor Forsaken. This thought flashed by quickly. When Ing Zongtian slowly opened his eyes, Xiaochen's thoughts immediately returned to reality. When Ing Zongtian heard that, he laughed loudly, saying, "Good," 3 times in a row. His bold laughter contained unconcealable joy and excitement. Ing Zongtian waved his hand and smiled. "Brother Spirit Fox, you don't understand. It has been 10 years. I have waited for this day for too long. To be able to live and see you surpass Prime is my greatest hope in this life." The Spirit Fox King thought about how, as a Prime, he could still send Xiaochen flying with 3 palm strikes 2 months ago. I've already killed him. As the Spirit Fox King looked at Xiaochen, who held his saber and pressed the tip of the saber against his forehead, he listened to what the Spirit Fox King said. That was why the difference in strength was so huge. On Heavenly Star Island, Ing Zongtian had already told Xiaochen that the gap between him and Emperor Forsaken was not large. These cold words stunned Emperor Forsaken. He believed that since Xiaochen said that, he would definitely do it. An aura that inspired fear appeared in the three's hearts. The expressions of Xiaochen and the other 2 immediately changed. "I'm not dead." The deity race ancestor grasped a strength that surpassed Prime. He was even stronger than the current Xiaochen. At the crucial moment, the deity race ancestor nearly died, unable to see Xiaochen, who surpassed Prime. Ing Zongtian felt an incredible headache. His memories turned blurry for a moment, and he could not clearly remember what happened. Ing Zongtian entered deep thought. "Xiaochen, you should go back quickly. There is probably a huge change in the heavenly starry ocean. I also need to reorganize the forces of the Bushin Palace. Even the heavenly Tao would not allow such an existence to appear." Furthermore, Xiaochen had only barely touched the bottom line of the heavenly Tao. The Fox King muttered to himself, frowning heavily. When Ing Zongtian heard that, he was stunned. Then, he nodded and said, "Good kill. Such a vile person is not worthy of being a Prime." The Cyclic Astral Lord, the Bright Moon Empress, the Myriad Law Fiend Master, could it be? Thinking of a certain existence, Xiaochen did not dare to think further. However, just at this moment, 5 figures suddenly appeared in the air, blocking Xiaochen's path. You broke through. Xiaochen also had 1,000 strands of primordial energy. However, the other party's power of faith and state of holy light had already reached great heights, already cultivated to the peak. Suddenly, scarlet spiritual light appeared in the distant western sky. The scarlet color was so dense that it was even more brilliant than the setting sun. Shao Chen, you really broke through to Prime. The Fox King watched from start to finish in disbelief, feeling like he was dreaming. Chapter 1502. Due to the changes in the heavenly starry ocean, Shao Chen had to make a trip back. However, before that, he still had some things to do. Big brother, you go to Bushin Palace first. I still have to return to the Blue Dragon Palace. Shao Chen had come out of the Blue Dragon Palace in too much of a rush. There were many things that he had not dealt with yet. Since Shao Chen was fine now, he had to make a trip back. Ying Zongtian nodded and immediately left. Although he was injured, as long as he appeared in Bushin Palace alive, he would be able to use the fame of a prime to suppress the three holy masters. Then, he would be able to gather all the power of the Bushin Palace and use the prestige of a prime to suppress the three holy masters. The Fox King performed a cupped fist salute and left as well. The heavenly starry ocean was undergoing a huge change. The entire Kunlun realm would probably descend into chaos. The Fiend Domain also needed him to hold down the fort. When Shao Chen entered the Blue Dragon Palace, the old dragon horse and the other item spirits had been waiting for a long time. Sorry, don't blame us for hiding it from you. If we did not, you would not have been able to clear the road of trials, the old dragon horse said. Everyone had their own standpoint. From different positions, they saw things differently. Shao Chen could understand that the other party was doing this for his own good. What he said was true. The more important thing was that Ying Zongtian and the Fox King were both fortunate and fine. Naturally, Shao Chen would not blame these people. I understand. I want to retrieve the Heavenly Flame's origin flame. Furthermore, I would like to move the Blue Dragon Palace to Heavenly Star Island. I wonder if the seniors can do that. The Blue Dragon Palace itself was a supreme treasure. With the Blue Dragon Palace guarding Heavenly Star Island, the Dragon's Gate should not have to worry. The old dragon horse hesitated for a while before saying, everything in the Blue Dragon Palace is yours now. Naturally, you can get the Heavenly Flame's origin flame. However, moving the Blue Dragon Palace to Heavenly Star Island is rather difficult. With your current strength, you are not able to refine the Blue Dragon Palace yet. Do your best to help me think of a way. Please, Shao Chen said with a cupped fist salute. Why don't we carry it back with our bare hands? Since we can't refine it, we can only use this stupid method. It's just that it will be a bit tiring, the azure-clothed man suddenly said with a smile. The old dragon horse was stunned for a while before saying, that is also a solution. The 5 elements absolute ceiling formation can be moved away. Of course, the core of the 5-element absolute ceiling formation has always been the Blue Dragon Hall. Furthermore, the Blue Dragon Hall wasn't here in the past. The matter of the Blue Dragon Palace moving back to the Dragon's Gate was settled. The black-clad old man took out the purple crystal containing the Heavenly Flame's origin and handed it to Shao Chen. After Shao Chen put it away, he discovered that the old dragon horse was looking at him with a grave expression. It seemed like it had something to say but was hesitant. Old senior, do you have any instructions? Forget it, I don't need it for now. You go do what you need to do. After you have calmed down for a while, I will tell you some things, as well as some duties that the master of the Blue Dragon Palace needs to fulfill. Shao Chen nodded thoughtfully to show that he understood. It was impossible for there to be only benefits and no duties in the world. Shao Chen obtained the inheritance and broke the restrictions. These were all benefits. However, the duties that he needed to fulfill were not clear. However, Shao Chen could not rush it. Since the old dragon horse did not say, he was too embarrassed to ask. Furthermore, this was not the time to be conflicted about this. After leaving the Blue Dragon Palace, Shao Chen walked around the walls. After he found a suitable angle, he grabbed it with both hands and pulled hard. Rumble. The Blue Dragon Palace was uprooted like a huge tree. Shao Chen felt incredibly tired, like he was hugging a mountain. However, no matter how tired he was, he had to do it. This was a treasure even more valuable than a mountain of gold. Holding the bottom of the blue dragon palace with one hand, Xiaoqin clenched his teeth. Vital qi surged in his body, gushing endlessly like a great river. 1,000 dragons danced wildly behind him, and streams of dragon-shaped energy flew everywhere. With 1,000 dragon force, Xiaoqin roared and finally lifted the entire blue dragon palace. Then, he soared into the air and quickly flew in the direction of the heavenly starry ocean. Along the way, the people who saw this scene were all stunned. This was simply a spectacle. Xiaoqin actually moved the entire blue dragon palace away. It looked simple, like one could move the entire blue dragon palace with just a little bit of strength. However, in this world, only Xiaoqin had the ability to do so. If it were anyone else, as long as the old dragon horse was unwilling, they would not be able to do so. Even the heaven-punishing corpse god, who cultivated his physical body to the Tao, could not get close to the blue dragon palace, much less lift it up. Xiaoqin worried about the situation of the heavenly starry ocean and the safety of the Dragon's Gate's people. Although it was tiring, Xiaoqin did not dare to relax for even a moment. He directly unfurled the blue dragon divine wings and continuously flapped them, exhausting his veritable essence energy. Everywhere he passed, strong winds blew, like a 5,000-kilometer-long sword tearing a long passageway through the clouds. Relying on the blue dragon divine wings and his veritable essence energy, Xiaoqin finally arrived at the edge of the sea after half a day. When he got closer, he could see the scarlet spiritual clouds in the heavenly starry ocean even more clearly. Those scarlet spiritual clouds were not formed of baleful qi. Blood symbolized inauspiciousness and massacre. However, apart from killing intent, the blood-colored spiritual clouds also contained pure spiritual energy. This was exceptionally eye-catching in the dense scarlet clouds. This also confused Xiaoqin. What exactly is going on? I left a messaging talisman with Mo Chen. Once something happens, she will contact me. There has been no news from the messaging talisman. Could something have happened to Mo Chen? With this thought, Xiaoqin became even more anxious. The blue dragon divine wings on his back flapped even more ferociously. Whoosh! 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 Just at this moment, many figures leaped out of the sea in a fluster. Xiaoqin, who was holding up the blue dragon palace, could clearly see that these were the merfolk race of the chaotic demonic sea. Quick, look! That is the blue dragon king, Xiaoqin. Quickly inform the empress. The merfolk race immediately discovered Xiaoqin's village chief. Soon, they saw the merfolk race's empress Yao Yan rushing over, escorted by a group of merfolk race upper echelon. Then, she gave instructions to the others to lead the merfolk race ashore and continue their journey. Sorry, I am holding up the blue dragon palace and cannot greet you. Tell me what happened in the heavenly starry ocean and what is going on with you all. Seeing Yao Yan walking over alone, Xiaoqin asked anxiously with a helpless expression while holding up the blue dragon palace. Yao Yan looked at the strenuous Xiaoqin and said, "This is the blue dragon palace. It looks like you already went in. Perhaps the heavenly starry ocean can still be saved." Xiaoqin's expression changed. He demanded sullenly, "Tell me what happened." Yao Yan let out a long sigh and said, "Everything is over. Now, aside from Zodiac Hall, Bright Moon City, and Myriad Fiend Island, all the other factions and sects of the heavenly starry ocean have been destroyed. This is simply the end of the world." What exactly happened? You know about the sea market controlled by the treasure master, right? Originally, everyone thought that those huge immortal statues were just decorations. However, now, they actually all came to life. 18 immortal statues swept through the place. No one could stop them. The Heavenly Province Academy, the Five Poison Sect, and the Yin-Yang Paradise were the first to be destroyed. The Five Poison Sect's church master did not even have time to flee before the immortal statues crushed him into a meat patty. Yao Yan's expression remained calm, not showing any crazed expression. However, her words sounded like a fantasy story, too shocking. Xiaoqin forced out a smile and said, "You must be lying to me. How could the dead immortals come back to life?" I'm not lying to you. Soon, this calamity will sweep through the entire oceanic world. At that time, not a single place will be safe. This, Xiaochen remembered that the myriad law fiend master once told him that there was a hidden danger in the heavenly starry ocean. Once it happened, it would be the end of the world. No one would be able to stop it. At that time, Xiaochen did not believe it. Unexpectedly, it became a reality in less than 2 months. Xiaochen remembered that the myriad law fiend master told him to cherish the peaceful days he had now. Unexpectedly, the myriad law fiend master's words hit the mark. The 2 months of peace really became the calm before the storm. How's the Dragon's Gate? What's the situation at Heavenly Star Island? Xiaochen reacted, his expression changing wildly. He did not even have time to send a message. Could the Dragon's Gate have been surrounded by the immortal statues and instantly destroyed? Immediately, Xiaochen felt somewhat startled. He really did not want the blood-clad sect to hold the Dragon's Gate hostage to happen again. I'm not sure. After I received the news, I started preparing for the migration of the merfolk race. The chaotic demonic sea will not be peaceful for long. I need to get my people to leave the oceanic world as soon as possible. Yao Yan revealed an apologetic expression, showing fatigue and helplessness. Some despair also appeared in the depths of her eyes. Chapter 1503. Take care. I'll be leaving first, Yao Yan said softly with a fatigued expression. Xiaochen asked, where are you going? Kunlun Mountain is the safest place in the entire Kunlun realm. That place was indeed the safest place in the entire Kunlun realm. Several of the demonic calamities had taken refuge in Kunlun Mountain. However, this time, there might not be a safe place in the entire Kunlun realm. Take care. Xiaochen sent off Yao Yan with his eyes, feeling somewhat heavy. He had only been gone for a few days, and such a huge change happened in the heavenly starry ocean. Could this have something to do with his trip to the Blue Dragon Palace? The more Xiaochen thought about it, the more likely it seemed. The trip to the Blue Dragon Palace had delayed half the Kunlun realm's primes, resulting in injuries and deaths. If not for Xiaochen specifically instructing the Cyclic Astral Lord and the other primes not to go, the entire heavenly starry ocean would have fallen already. Never mind, I'll go to Heavenly Star Island first. Right now, the most important thing is to ensure the Dragon's Gate's safety. After verifying the direction, Xiaochen ferociously flapped the blue dragon divine wings. Then, he leaped 50 kilometers, moving like a strong wind and lightning, like the legendary Great Rock. Whoosh! The moment Xiaochen entered the oceanic world, something strange happened. The pressure on Xiaochen, who was holding up the Blue Dragon Palace, suddenly increased explosively. That aura, which initially only made him feel some fear, seemed to be everywhere. Now that he entered the oceanic world, this aura seemed to be everywhere, spreading and encasing the entire oceanic world. Boom! Xiaochen's entire body fell to the surface of the sea. Whoosh! Immediately, 10-odd waves soared into the sky. After Xiaochen landed, it became much more difficult to fly again. If he put down the Blue Dragon Palace, he could continue flying. However, that would be pointless. Xiaochen had put in so much effort to move the Blue Dragon Palace to the Dragon's Gate. So be it. With my speed, even if I run at full speed, I might not be much slower. After thinking for a while, Xiaochen raised the Blue Dragon Palace and continued running on the sea. As he ventured deeper into the ocean world, the pressure on his body increased bit by bit. Everywhere he passed, he saw even more oceanic powers that were migrating and fleeing. Most of them were extremely panicked, and they'd given up on sects that had existed for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. Even an immortal sacred ground like the Heavenly Province Academy was annihilated. How could these factions dare to remain in the oceanic world? If they did, they would not be able to leave even if they wanted to. Occasionally, Xiaochen asked some people about the Heavenly Starry Ocean and the Dragon's Gate. These people had a rough understanding of the Heavenly Starry Ocean. However, they did not know anything about the Dragon's Gate. When several people heard that Xiao Chen was going to the heavenly starry ocean, their expressions changed slightly. The heavenly starry ocean has already turned into hell on earth. The immortal statues are killing machines. Wherever he goes, blood flows like a river. With a single stomp, he can easily slaughter the people of an entire city. Yes, my friend escaped from there. The entire sky was blood red. I don't see any life force. Furthermore, the treasure master's residence's people are still capturing people everywhere. It's a tragic sight. Even the Holy Land with the 3 primes will not be able to last for long. The news that Xiao Chen obtained was depressing. Some martial emperors were even frightened out of their wits. However, Xiao Chen had to go to the heavenly starry ocean. Xiao Chen increased his speed and continued forward. After half a day, he finally arrived at the edge of the heavenly starry ocean. Whoosh! 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 Seabirds blotted out the sky and sun above, forming a flock as they left. All sorts of ferocious beasts rode the wind and broke the waves on the surface of the sea. These sea beasts were all leaving the heavenly starry ocean. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. The hearts of the people were separated, and the birds and beasts were startled. What exactly was the situation in the heavenly starry ocean? Along the way, many cultivators lost all will to resist. They only cared about fleeing, losing all courage. Are the enemies really that strong? Heavenly starry ocean, let me see what exactly is going on. With a trace of stubbornness, Xiao Chen held up the blue dragon palace and faced the boundless tide as he swam against the current. The blue dragon palace that Xiao Chen held up exuded a strong dragon might. The ferocious sea beasts did not dare to seek trouble for him at all. He was like a sharp sword swinging over, and countless ferocious beasts took the initiative to separate. The moment Xiao Chen stepped into the heavenly starry ocean, an unpleasant stench of blood mixed with the smell of seawater assaulted his nose. When Xiao Chen looked around, the islands at the periphery were empty. Everyone had already fled long ago. Rumble. The sounds of intense fighting could be heard in the sky. In the distant sky, light burst out, and the sky seemed to tear apart, sending down countless beams of starlight. Xiao Chen could vaguely see a huge silhouette. Even from tens of thousands of kilometers away, he felt a strong might and pressure. That was in the direction of the Zodiac Hall. The ones fighting should be the cyclic astral lord and some immortal statues. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and did not say anything. He showed a sullen expression as the blue dragon divine wings on his back unfurled once more. Enduring the huge pressure, the wings flapped ferociously, and Xiao Chen soared into the air again. At this point, Xiao Chen already felt exceptionally anxious. Even if he had to exhaust his veritable essence energy, he had to rush to Heavenly Star Island. A strong wind blew for 500,000 kilometers, and Xiao Chen moved like a meteor tearing through the sky. The wind blew past his ears, and his hair and clothes fluttered wildly. Xiao Chen casually swept his gaze around. Many of the islands below had fiery lights soaring into the sky. Many of the treasure master's residence's cultivators were in the rubble, capturing people everywhere. Their methods were cruel and crude, placing people into cages as if they were livestock. There were too many of them. Even if Xiao Chen wanted to save them, he could not. The treasure master's people did not kill these people on the spot. Instead, they captured them. This made Xiao Chen think of a phrase, blood sacrifice. When making sacrifices to the demonic god, it required a large amount of fresh blood and souls of living people. Could the treasure master's residence really have something to do with the deep abyss demonic world? There was no time to think. As Xiao Chen quickly advanced, Heavenly Star Island finally appeared at the limits of his vision. Unexpectedly, this sea region was completely silent. There was no smell of blood in the air either. Whoosh! Xiao Chen landed on the surface of the sea and looked around suspiciously. The intense battle that he expected did not happen. There was no bloody scene either. The Dragon's Gate. When Xiao Chen looked up, he executed his heavenly eye. Whoosh! The heavenly eye turned into a diamond-shaped beam of light that shot out. After traveling 500 kilometers, it hovered in the sky. The diamond-shaped beam of light was like a divine eye. It clearly saw everything below, down to the finest detail. Xiaoqian narrowed his gaze and looked in the direction of Heavenly Star Island, squinting. Mo Chen and the Dragon's Gate's people on the city walls showed anxious expressions. However, they were all there. It's fine. The Dragon's Gate's people are fine. Xiaoqian withdrew his heavenly eye. Wild joy appeared in his heart as he rushed towards Heavenly Star Island. Bang! 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 Xiaoqian gently pushed off with his feet. With every step he took, he moved with great force, kicking up boundless waves that soared into the sky. Even from a distance, he could see them. After about 7 minutes, Mo Chen and the others on the city gates discovered a palace hall flying over from the sea. That is, the Blue Dragon Palace. Mo Chen's eyes were very sharp. She had read a lot of books. She could recognize the palace hall's origins from its rough outline. Miss Mo, there seems to be someone under the palace hall. Soon, someone on the city gates saw this strange scene. Mo Chen showed a startled expression as she said, "It's Big Brother Xiao. Quickly, get him to stop. Don't continue." The others all cried out like they were startled awake from a dream. They did not show any excitement or joy when they saw Xiaoqian. Instead, their eyes filled with worry. As they were too far away, Xiaoqian could not hear them clearly. When he heard them clearly, he discovered another person in front. It was the young treasure master. Yiling crossed his arms and revealed a smile on his face. He said indifferently, "Blue Dragon King, long time no see." Xiaoqian looked around. When he saw that there was no one around, he immediately felt wary. There's no need to look. It's just me. Not bad. You even moved the Blue Dragon Palace back. You must be thinking of putting it on Heavenly Star Island, right? Yiling said with a fake smile, showing a mocking expression. Unfortunately, there is no such chance. Behind him, the statue of an immortal slowly poked its head out of the sea, rising higher and higher. Soon, it surpassed the height of the Blue Dragon Palace and cast a huge shadow over Xiaoqian, encasing him completely. Xiaoqian's spiritual sense was sharp. He sensed another immortal statue slowly emerging behind him. Chapter 1504. Xiaoqian's heart skipped a beat. This was a trap. The treasure master already predicted that Xiaoqian would appear. There were only a total of 18 immortal statues, and he set up an ambush for Xiaoqian. No wonder no one from the Dragon's Gate dared to appear or use the messaging token to contact Xiaoqian. The treasure master feared that Xiaoqian would rush over after hearing the news and end up falling into an ambush. However, the treasure master predicted that Xiaoqian would definitely come. Furthermore, he was right. Xiaoqian, have a taste of the great gift that I prepared for you. Ha 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 ha. Yiling laughed loudly, and his body slowly immaterialized. This was just one of his clones. Clearly, Yiling was not bold enough to show his true body before Xiaoqian. Xiaoqian could instantly suppress him within 1 kilometer. The huge immortal statue was 10 kilometers tall. At this moment, it was only halfway out, but it already surpassed the height of Xiaoqian and the Blue Dragon Palace. Rise! Xiaoqian shouted and soared into the air while holding up the Blue Dragon Palace. Then, he ferociously tossed the entire Blue Dragon Palace towards Heavenly Star Island. As long as the Blue Dragon Palace reached Heavenly Star Island and laid down the 5-element absolute sealing formation, the Dragon's Gate's safety would be assured. Xiaoqian would no longer have to worry. At the same time, Xiaoqian executed the fish dragon art. Then, he moved in an arc and escaped the encirclement of the 2 immortal statues, retreating 10 kilometers. Xiaoqian looked up. The 2 immortal statues were like 2 tall mountains. When he raised his head, he could only see the necks of the statues. One of them was rather special, carrying a sword on its back. Xiaoqian did not know if it would use it or not. Xiao Chen also felt suspicious. How could such a huge statue move nimbly? How could it strike him, who was like an ant in the statue's eyes? The destructive power of the immortal statues that could destroy cities, islands, and sects went without saying. They were so huge that they could destroy a city with one stomp. However, in a one-on-one fight, Xiao Chen could not help doubting the combat prowess of these immortal statues. With this thought in mind, a palm clenched into a fist and slammed toward Xiao Chen. Above his head, the sunlight was immediately blocked. The entire fist aura was like a mountain, shrouding Xiao Chen in its shadow. Whoosh! With a flash, Xiao Chen dodged the attack with relative ease. Just as he was about to heave a sigh of relief, he realized that he was once again shrouded by a shadow. It was the statue of the immortal who had clenched his fist and opened it into a palm. All of a sudden, the range of coverage increased by 1,000 meters, making it impossible for Xiao Chen to dodge. His body had no choice but to quickly dive into the sea and sink. With a loud bang, the seawater on the surface of the sea split open like a piece of tofu and then splashed all over the sky. The enormous palm force passed through the water's surface and hit Xiao Chen. Like a cannonball, he was sent flying into the mud at the bottom of the sea. The two immortal statues sank into the water at the same time and stomped their feet. In an instant, heaven and earth shook, and many islands split apart. The boundless seawater could not withstand this huge force, so it was squeezed out, forming a vacuum. A huge hole appeared on the surface of the sea. At the same time, towering waves surged out in all directions like a tsunami. A strong wind and torrential rain poured down from the sky. The various might of the immortal statues caused mysterious phenomena to appear. Thunder roared, lightning flashed, and storms and tsunamis surged. The entire scene looked like the end of the world. The two immortal statues trampled on Xiao Chen, who had fallen to the bottom of the sea, and forced him out of the water. Mud covered Xiao Chen's clothes. As the heavy rain poured down, he was drenched. In just a simple exchange, Xiao Chen was reduced to a sorry state. He no longer dared to underestimate the individual combat prowess of these immortal statues. Whoosh! The two immortal statues moved their hands, forming hand seals at the same time. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. Could it be that they know magic skills? In the next moment, Xiao Chen's guess came true. Electricity flickered between the fingers of the immortal statue's right hand as it stretched out its hand. Crackle! Thousands upon thousands of 100-meter-long spears appeared in the sky, each surrounded by countless bolts of lightning. Together with the torrential rain, these spears densely encased Xiao Chen. With a thought, 7 divine weapons appeared around Xiao Chen. Amid the rain, 7 figures materialized, holding the 7 deadly sins. A 7-person yin-yang saber formation revolved around Xiao Chen's treasures, helping him block the lightning spears one after another. At this moment, the other immortal statue finished preparing its magic skill. It opened its mouth and spat out a flame. This flame was the true flame that immortals use to refine medicinal pills. It was no weaker than a primal chaos-level flame like the heavenly snow divine flame. Furthermore, there were many of them. The moment the flame appeared, it spread for 500 kilometers. There was no way to escape. Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram. Xiao Chen waved his hands, and a resplendent Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram appeared in front of him, blocking the dense true flame. Just as the Taiji Yin-Yang Flame Diagram was about to shatter, Xiao Chen soared into the air and escaped the sea of fire with a few flashes. Although Xiao Chen escaped the sea of fire, he could not avoid getting injured by the lightning spears falling from the sky, leaving behind flickering sparks. Starry Heaven Storm. The moment Xiao Chen stabilized himself, he executed his counterattack. It was the minor magic skill, Starry Heaven Storm. Right now, Xiao Chen was much stronger than before. The magic energy in his sea of consciousness was as vast as the sea. He was able to use this little divine ability with ease. Night descended in the sky above. The stars in the universe flickered endlessly. The vast starry heavens were forged by fate. The stars in the sky were the chess pieces crisscrossing each other. The sky was the board, and the stars were the chess pieces. How could the child of fate move rashly? With a thought, Xiao Chen's simulated starry heavens pushed 9 stars, bringing out the might of this starry heaven storm to its peak. Whoosh! The 9 starry heaven storms merged into one, turning into a black curtain of night that surged out. The lightning spears filling the sky were immediately blown away, and the flames were blown back. After using the starry heaven storm to resolve the other party's 2 magic skills, Xiao Chen stood in the air, staring at the 2 immortal statues in the distance, not daring to relax at all. Let's see how long you can last. In the darkness, Yi Ling said with a sinister expression when he saw Xiao Chen dodge several dangerous moves and still have the strength to fight. A treasure pearl appeared in Yi Ling's hand. Then, he sent out a thought, and the eyes of the 2 immortal statues suddenly turned scarlet. Their attacks became even sharper and more ferocious. Xiao Chen kept one thing on his mind. As he faced the 2 immortal statues' ferocious advance and ferocious attacks, he kept dodging. He did his best not to come into direct contact with them. For now, his priority was to figure out the true strength of the immortal statues. The vast sea split apart, and a strong wind and heavy rain fell in the air. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky. The dark clouds looked like the entire sky was about to fall and could be touched by stretching out one's hand. As Yi Ling looked at Xiao Chen, who was in an increasingly sorry state and could die at any moment, his lips finally curled up in a cold smile. Xiao Chen, you did not expect this day to come, right? Back then, you broke my arms. Today, I will return it tenfold. I will trample you into meat paste and make you wish you were dead. When Xiao Chen heard that, he revealed a disdainful smile and said, Young treasure master, why the need to hide? Do you dare to reveal your true body? Don't worry. When you are about to die, I will definitely trample heavily on you and fulfill your wish. Yi Ling was not a fool. Naturally, he would not be provoked by Xiao Chen's words and stupidly jump out. Amid the intense battle, Xiao Chen looked calmly at the 2 immortal statues as he quickly analyzed them. The immortal statues possessed the strength of a prime just by relying on their physical bodies. Furthermore, their speed, reaction, and nimbleness were not slow. The more horrifying thing was that they knew magic skills and could use immortal arts. Furthermore, they had bodies that were nearly immortal and did not feel pain. Right now, the only uncertain thing was whether these immortal statues could use magic treasures or not. Only after confirming the true limits of the immortal statues could Xiao Chen go all out. It was fine if he did not make a move. Once he made a move, he needed to gain something. Xiao Chen looked around and fixed his gaze on the huge sword on the back of the immortal statue on the left. Needless to say, the sword was definitely a magic treasure. I'll use you to test it out. After dodging the attacks of the 2 immortal statues, Xiao Chen's figure flashed as he executed the divine dragon tail whip. Then, he moved in a huge arc and instantly appeared in front of the immortal statue on the left. The myriad heaven divine fist, a distant legend, gave off a divine light that filled the sky. The world chanted Xiao Chen's epic poem, continuously supporting this punch. The light of the fist seemed to contain 1,000-year-old legend, boundlessly resplendent. Pa! Before the fist light arrived, the other immortal statue punched Xiao Chen. Pu ci. Pu ci. Xiao Chen vomited a mouthful of blood, paying the price for this reckless attack. Good. Yi Ling, who was in the dark, could not help calling out softly when he saw this scene. Xiao Chen's body landed on a wave. The wave carried a huge force, tossing Xiao Chen high into the air. Strong winds blew and heavy rain fell without end. Xiao Chen's complexion paled slightly, but he revealed a faint smile. Xiao Chen finally came to the conclusion that the immortal statues were not ridiculously strong. They could not use magic treasures, the sword was just a decoration. Otherwise, Xiao Chen would not have needed his companion to finish off that earlier punch. His own sword strike would have been more powerful, faster, and more direct. Kill him. Yi Ling, who felt that Xiao Chen was already an arrow at the end of its flight, jumped out and ordered coldly. The immortal statue with the sword on its back leaped forward and punched at Xiao Chen, who was tossed into the air by the wave. 10,000 bolts of lightning flickered behind the immortal statue. The force of this punch triggered a boundless mysterious phenomenon, illuminating the huge immortal statue, looking incredibly horrifying. The legend still exists, and the glory will not fade. Xiao Chen suddenly shouted in the air. The scattered light from the earlier distant legend quickly gathered in his body. In the dark space, amid the strong wind and heavy rain, Xiao Chen's body glowed faintly, looking like the only light in the dark night. The distant legend, the glory of the epic, played out in this world. Xiao Chen punched, clashing with that huge immortal statue's fist with his insignificant body. Bang! The two fists clashed, and the world shook. Xiao Chen merged his veritable essence energy, magic energy, and vital qi into one, gathering them all on his fist. Amid a loud sound, Xiao Chen forcefully blocked that punch, not taking a single step back. In the dark night, Xiao Chen was as insignificant as an ant, and the immortal statue was as huge as a mountain. However, the other party's fist could not move Xiao Chen at all. Lightning, thunder, and heavy rain materialized. Yi Ling watched this scene in disbelief, not daring to believe what he saw. Myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending, tenfold combat prowess. Again. Xiao Chen laughed maniacally. Instead of advancing, he retreated, using deities descending to increase his combat prowess tenfold. Ka Xie. Ka Xie. The huge statue's arm cracked as it stumbled, continuously moving back. Major magic skill, Dermic World. Scram! The other immortal statue wanted to reinforce Xiao Chen, who was about to launch a counterattack, but he did not fear it at all. Xiao Chen's figure wavered, and his Dermic World appeared. It was 3 kilometers tall. Then, it kicked the immortal statue that came to reinforce Xiao Chen and sent it flying. Chapter 1505. It was not over yet. Xiao Chen's major magic skill, Dermic World, now lasted 7 seconds longer than the original 3. 7 seconds was sufficient for Xiao Chen to do many things. Xiao Chen kicked away the immortal statue that came to help. Then, he narrowed his eyes and stared at the one-armed immortal statue. While you are down, I will take your life. After executing so many killing moves, if he still could not kill an immortal statue, Xiao Chen would suffer a great loss. The 7 divine weapons merged into one, and Xiao Chen materialized the Flawless Saber Technique. Flawless Saber Technique, Void-Breaking Stance. When Xiao Chen executed the void-breaking stance with his Dermic Incarnation, its might multiplied. With his Dermic Incarnation, Xiao Chen's Taiji Saber domain expanded from 1 kilometer to 10 kilometers. The amount of energy that Zhang Xian could absorb was 10 times greater than before. When Zhang Xian executed the Void Piercer, when he executed the void-breaking stance, resplendent light illuminated this pitch-black space for tens of thousands of kilometers, making it look like day. The saber light flickered on the saber's edge, extending for 10 kilometers, reaching the sky and the ground. Dang! A crack appeared in the immortal statue's body. Countless rocks fell off, looking like small mountains. Dragon Subduing Stance, the Flawless Saber Technique's second move. Using the might of a true dragon, one stands on thousands of true dragon images. When the saber descended, it was like 1,000 dragons gathered together and formed a dragon pillar. The immortal statue took another step back, and another wound appeared on its chest. Xiao Chen's swift and ruthless killing move did not give the one-armed immortal statue any chance to catch its breath. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he leaped into the clouds using his Dermic Incarnation. A figure soared into the air, flying and setting the moon. This was the Flawless Saber Technique's third move. Xiao Chen chopped off the immortal statue's other arm, which looked like the moon. When the 7 seconds were up, Xiao Chen recovered his true form, and the other immortal statue charged over again. How noisy! The 2 immortal statues harassed him, annoying him to no end. Xiaochen turned his head around and executed the flawless saber technique's strongest move, the heartbreaking stance. He immediately felt an intense pain in his chest. Heartbreaking. First shattering oneself, then shattering the enemy. Amidst the pain, the potential of the entire body was stimulated, harming the enemy while harming 800. When Xiaochen swung his saber, a huge hole suddenly appeared in the chest of the immortal statue that he blocked with his hand. Xiaochen's heart stirred. This immortal statue was incomparably huge, but its physical body should still be that of a human. It was just that he had used some sort of secret technique to become like this. Retreat. A statue of an immortal had both its arms cut off and was riddled with saber scars. A large hole appeared in the other treasure master's chest. The young treasure master Yi Ling's expression changed drastically. Then, he sent a thought into the pearl and quickly retreated. The two immortal statues leaped into the air and tried their best to retreat. Can you come and go as you please? Xiaochen snorted coldly and drew his lunar shadow saber, tossing it into the air. The lunar shadow saber gave off a resplendent light, looking like the sun as it flew down. The great Tao energy behind Xiaochen condensed into a point and then rose rapidly. When the Tao might reached its peak, it infused into the lunar shadow saber, making it even more resplendent. When the lunar shadow saber landed, it happened to stab into the immortal statue that had lost both arms, knocking it into the air. Then, it plunged into the sea and stabbed firmly into the seabed. Seeing one of the undefeatable immortal statues get destroyed, Yi Ling felt his heart bleed. At the same time, he felt even more horrified. Fortunately, the mission that the treasure master gave him was not to kill Xiaochen. It was just to probe Xiaochen's strength. However, Yi Ling, who originally did not think much of it, thought that he could easily suppress Xiaochen with the two immortal statues. Now, it looked like that was just wishful thinking. He finally believed the treasure master's words. After succeeding in one strike, Xiaochen stopped chasing. His figure flashed, and then he smashed the sea with his palm. Bang! The seawater parted, revealing a huge immortal statue at the bottom. A saber was stabbed into the back of the statue. Xiaochen descended and drew the lunar shadow saber. Ka-Xie. The great Tao energy exploded within the statue, shattering it in front of Xiaochen. This did not surprise Xiaochen. The immortal statue was already severely injured by the flawless saber technique in the first place. In the end, the transcendent divine weapon containing great Tao energy dealt a fatal blow. It would be hard for the immortal statue not to shatter. Whoosh! 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 Sonic booms rang out from behind. When Mo Chen, Lan Tianji, Yu, and the others saw that the danger was over, they flew over. Big Brother Xiao. Mo Chen said, wanting to explain something. Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "There's no need to say anything. I understand. Are the people of the Dragon's Gate fine?" Mo Chen nodded and said, "They're fine. After I received the news, I gathered the people of the nearby islands in Heaven Dragon City. I originally thought that the two statues would attack Heaven Dragon City. Who knew, they did not do anything. At that time, I had my suspicions." Xiaochen said, "They are testing my strength. The treasure master will probably make a move on the Dragon's Gate at the last moment." Mo Chen quickly suggested, "How about we leave now?" During this period of time, Heaven Dragon City has already been completely established. It is connected to the entire Heavenly Star Island and can fly the entire island to the continent. Xiaochen shook his head and said, "It has not reached that stage yet. I still have to go and rescue the three immortal holy lands. I can't just watch as they get destroyed. Furthermore, will it be safe to flee to Kunlun Mountain?" "What do you mean?" Big Brother Xiaochen. The others did not understand what Xiaochen meant, revealing doubtful expressions. As Xiaochen studied the statue fragments, he said, "If I guessed right, the treasure master has a deep connection to the Dark Church. This is just the beginning. Soon, the world-destroying demonic calamity will descend. At that time, there will be no place in the entire Kunlun realm that is absolutely safe. Upon hearing this, the expressions of Lan Tianji and the others changed slightly. Clearly, they had not expected that the matter of the heavenly starry ocean was just the beginning. Hey! Xiaoqin pushed aside the statue fragments and found a heart-shaped stone. When he held it in his hand, he could actually hear the sound of a heartbeat. Long ago, the immortal statues must have been living immortals. However, they used secret techniques and magic skills to become like this. Logically speaking, their bodies should not have any life force. However, this heart still had some life force. Immediately, Xiaoqin understood a little. The treasure master controlled these immortal statues and supported them with this heart in his hand. The treasure master should have used the puppet pearl to activate these hearts and then gain control of them. In other words, as long as the treasure master shattered the immortal statue's heart, this huge killing machine would be nothing more than a pile of rocks. No wonder Yi Ling quickly retreated after Xiaoqin shattered the immortal statue's heart with heartbreaking. If Yi Ling had not retreated, that immortal statue would have slowly died from the shattering of its heart. How unfortunate. If Yi Ling left now, there would definitely be a way to repair it. If only Xiaoqin had hardened his heart and chased for a while longer, he would have left the two immortal statues behind. Big brother Xiao, what are you thinking about? Mo Chen asked when she saw that Xiaoqin remained silent for a long time. Xiaoqin revealed a smile and said, I think I roughly know some of the weaknesses of these immortal statues. Come back with me. I have to go to the Blue Dragon Palace to confirm it first. At the secret island where the treasure master's residence was, many warships and war chariots dragged countless cultivators over like they were livestock. All the cultivators had their cultivations crippled and were tied up with ropes. Then, they were piled up in a huge cave in the treasure master's residence. The treasure master watched all this expressionlessly, entering deep thought. This is not enough. The quality of these cultivators is too low. It is not enough to summon the demonic god back. I need to break through the three immortal holy lands. There are countless high-level Emperor Wu there. Lord Treasure Master, the young Treasure Master is back. A subordinate came to report. The Treasure Master nodded slightly and said, let him come over. The young Treasure Master, Yi Ling, walked over while trembling with fear. He lowered his head and said, Father, you are right. Two immortal statues indeed cannot kill him. The treasure master did not show any surprise. He said indifferently, explain the process in detail. Tell me everything that you saw in detail. After Yi Ling finished, the treasure master sighed and said, nurturing a tiger is a calamity. I guessed long ago that he would grow into a great problem for me. Unfortunately, I could not steel myself to eliminate him like how I eliminated the Thunder King. However, that's fine. This time, even if the Qing Emperor were alive, no one would be able to stop me. Chapter 1506. In the Blue Dragon Palace, Xiaoqin held the immortal statue's heart as he consulted the old dragon horse and the other seniors. Seniors, this is the heart of the immortal statue. It still has a strong life force. Do any of you know of any puppet techniques in the outside world that can control an ancient era's immortal body? The moment the question was posed, the old dragon horse and the others laughed. This confused Xiaoqin. The young woman said, let me explain. The development of puppetry in the outside world is far beyond what you can imagine. Not to mention the immortal bodies of the immortal epoch, even bodies from dozens of epochs ago can be controlled. In my opinion, this immortal statue's strength is far greater than this. However, due to the laws of the Kunlun realm, they are limited to a limit, unable to advance further. As for the methods, there are simply too many. There are thousands of clans and sects that are famous for their puppetry techniques. When Xiaoqin heard this, he blushed with shame. No wonder these seniors would laugh. In the end, it was still a problem of their horizons. If a 3-year-old child were to ask him whether it was amazing to lift a mountain rock, he would also laugh involuntarily. The azure-clad man said sullenly, you can't say that. After all, this is the Kunlun realm, an abandoned land. Even if experts from the outside world came in, their strength would not surpass that of a supreme being. To be able to control so many immortal statues is also an extremely impressive feat, a thought occurred to Xiao Chen. He asked, Seniors, do you know if there is a faction called the Dark Church in the outside world? Even if you didn't tell us, we would have told you. Back then, when the Qing Emperor was fighting with this group of people, the Qing Emperor didn't kill them. Based on our speculation, the Nether sect is not a simple sect. The green-clad man said as he looked at Xiao Chen. What's not simple about it? How should I put it? In the outside world, there are very few sects and powers that call themselves sections. That's because being a sect is a taboo. Without a certain level of strength and foundation, if you dare to call yourself a sect, you will be suppressed by those big sects and be labeled as an evil sect. It will be very difficult for you to survive. You should know that a single sect in the outside world can spawn countless other sects, spanning 10 or even 100 greater thousand worlds. For example, Buddhism and Confucianism. There are tens of thousands of temples, big and small. Their incense sticks are flourishing and never waning. Therefore, any force that uses the name of a sect is either a small force that no one pays attention to, or a force that is terrifyingly strong. Xiao Chen hastily asked, is the Nether sect the former or the latter? The green-clothed man entered deep thought. After a while, he said, the outside world does not have a sect called the Dark Church. At the very least, the large sects do not have this name. However, when the Qing Emperor fought with this group of people back then, the Dark Church did not have this name. We guessed that this Dark Church should be a large sect in the outside world. However, they changed their name in the Kunlun realm. To be able to spend so much money to operate in the banished lands, it's not something that a small cult can do. Xiao Chen was shocked. He did not expect the Nether sect to have such a powerful background. Then what is their purpose? Purpose? Their goal was, of course, the origin heart. After every epoch ended, they would form an abandoned land with an origin heart. As long as they obtained the origin heart, they would have a chance to comprehend the mysteries of the epoch's rise and fall. Aside from all this, the origin heart itself is a divine item. It can increase one's cultivation and comprehension of the Tao. Many major characters of the outside world would fight for it. The green-clothed man continued, however, very few people in the outside world have such intentions. Firstly, it is too difficult and time-consuming. Secondly, it goes against the heavenly Tao and affects one's luck. Even if I don't obtain the heart of origin, there will still be other benefits. For example, I can occupy this land of exile and develop it into the territory of my own sect, providing an endless stream of believers and strengthening the sect's incense. Hence, every abandoned land is similar to the Kunlun realm. There are existences like the Dark Church with all sorts of intentions. Xiao Chen finally understood. In the past, he always wondered why the Dark Church appeared out of nowhere. It turned out that even without the Dark Church, there would be other factions with the same intentions. As for the origin heart, Xiao Chen knew that it was in Kunlun Mountain. No wonder there were experts guarding Kunlun Mountain all year round, never leaving it. The experts of the various races would put aside their past enmity and defend the Kunlun realm together. Now, everything made sense. If the origin heart was snatched away, the Kunlun realm would become a wasteland. No matter which race it was, they would all perish, becoming slaves of others. If they did not work together to face the demonic calamity together, they would just be seeking their own destruction. What are you worried about? Don't overthink. As long as you are strong enough, you can salvage everything. Back then, the Qing Emperor did so. He fought against the entire Dark Church alone. If he can do it, so can you, the green-clothed man consoled. Xiao Chen looked at the immortal statue heart in his hand with a somewhat grave expression. He kept feeling that this demonic calamity was extraordinary. It would be different from the past demonic calamities. This would be a battle of true destruction. Never mind, I'm not thinking too much. After putting away the immortal statue heart, Xiaoqin stopped thinking about anything else. He said, I feel that my strength is still somewhat unstable. How should I put it? It's like I have a treasure trove, but I don't know how to use it. The old dragon horse said softly, you just advanced to veritable personage and have yet to stabilize your veritable essence stage. Under normal circumstances, you would need at least 10 days to familiarize yourself with the power of veritable essence energy. At the same time, you would use the Blue Dragon Palace to stabilize your cultivation. Xiaoqin smiled bitterly and said, this is not what I wanted. I'll rest for a while and go out again later. I cannot just watch as the 3 holy lands get destroyed. That way, the following demonic calamity will be even more difficult. The demonic calamity would descend soon. No matter how strong Xiaoqin was, he would not be able to do anything alone. Furthermore, these holy lands had more or less helped him. Be it out of righteousness or a favor, Xiaoqin had to help. Suddenly, Xiaoqin shifted his gaze and looked at the black-clad old man. Senior, let me ask you something. Back then, why did the Qing Emperor get attacked by everyone after he returned to the Kunlun realm? Back then, the Qing Emperor had a decisive battle with the Tianwu Emperor. After he defeated the Tianwu Emperor, the 18 demon monarchs of the demonic world surrounded him and attacked him. Even the Dark Church's church master made a move. All this was recorded in the documents. Xiaoqin knew about it long ago. The true mystery was that after the Qing Emperor dragged his severely injured body back to the Kunlun realm, he got attacked by everyone. Given the might of the Qing Emperor, even if he was severely injured, no one should have dared to touch him. Who was it? Who was the leader? The leader had to be extremely prestigious. Otherwise, there would not be so many people responding to his call. Later generations did not record this part of history. Clearly, they were wary of this person's identity. Although the Qing Emperor walked the demonic Tao, no matter what, Xiaoqin was still a descendant of the Qing Emperor. In Xiaoqian's previous life, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord successfully reincarnated. Perhaps the Qing Emperor had something to do with it. Logically speaking, Xiaoqin was qualified to know about this part of the past. Big Brother Dragon, the black-clad old man raised his head and looked at the old dragon horse. The old dragon horse nodded heavily before the black-clad old man said, back then, when the Qing Emperor returned to the Kunlun realm, the one who dealt the fatal blow was none other than the Thunder King. When Xiaoqin heard this, he was startled. It was like a clap of thunder rang out in his mind. This was really, something that he couldn't have imagined no matter what. Before the Thunder King disappeared, the Thunder King had been protecting Xiaoqin, even going up against 3 primes for Xiaoqian's king conferral ceremony. Although Xiaoqin had not seen the Thunder King's true body, he had always respected this senior in his heart. Actually, you should be able to guess who was second only to the Qing Emperor 10,000 years ago. Who dared to make a move against the Qing Emperor? Furthermore, who was capable of dealing a fatal blow to the severely injured Qing Emperor? The black-robed old man said softly. Xiaoqin remained silent, not daring to believe it. However, he simply could not think of any rebuttal. Disregarding emotional factors, the Thunder King was indeed the most likely candidate, if not for the fact that he had always existed. Why did the later generations hide that part of history? This had always been a mystery. It was because of the Thunder King's interference that this part of history was not passed down. The Thunder King had the ability and prestige to do so. The various holy lands did not dare to not give him face. Chapter 1507. After a while, Xiaoqin recovered his wits from this news. He looked at the black-clad old man and asked, the Thunder King should have his reasons for doing this, right? The black-clad old man nodded and said, the Qing Emperor entered the Tao as a demonic cultivator. How could ordinary people understand what he did? He provoked some irrelevant people who pointed fingers at him in secret and held a deep grudge against him. In the Martial God Palace, there are some clowns jumping around behind the Martial God Palace. I do not know how those people persuaded the Thunder King. Then, the Thunder King dealt the Qing Emperor a fatal blow the moment he returned to the Kunlun realm. When Xiaochen heard the black-clad old man's words, he felt like laughing. However, he could not. Everything had two sides. One could not just listen to one side of the story. If one listened to the black-clad old man's words, the Qing emperor was definitely a wise, decisive, tyrannical person, and a man of his word. Even though he entered the Tao as a demonic cultivator, in the eyes of the old man, that was just a Tao that ordinary people could not understand. However, in the eyes of outsiders, the Qing emperor was no different from a demon, affecting the interests of many people. His arbitrary actions also dissatisfied many people and attracted a lot of hatred. One side was the artifact spirit of the Qing emperor, and the other was a group whose interests were affected by the Qing emperor. However, each side took half, which was more or less the truth. From a purely objective point of view, Xiaochen looked at it from an outsider's point of view. Neither side did anything wrong. Children understood the reason, and adults understood the pros and cons. Everyone just had their own desires. The Qing emperor entered the Tao as a demonic cultivator. He walked the path of supremacy, killing decisively, and treating human lives like ants. The other party's interests were damaged, and for a long time, they did not dare to voice their anger. Naturally, they would beat the dog when it was down, cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. This seemed very normal, with nothing out of the ordinary. However, Xiaochen still had a question. Why did the Thunder King make a move? Could it be that the Thunder King thinks that the Qing Emperor is a great devil because he wants to get rid of demons? However, this was not normal. If there were no benefits involved, why would the Thunder King take such a risk? What benefits did the Thunder King seek? Although he was the palace master of Bushan Palace was actually in the hands of the three holy masters. The Thunder and Lightning Palace under Xiaochen's banner had always been on par with the Supreme Sky Sect. Don't listen to him, the man in blue said. We can't bear to see what the Qing Emperor did in the past. Although it is said that the fittest survive, there are always some basic principles in this world. But the Qing Emperor. The old dragon horse interrupted, forget it. Don't say any more. You can keep asking about the Qing Emperor's matters. The past is already gone with the wind. You just have to remember not to walk down the same path as the Qing Emperor. Right. The Qing Emperor is a sinful person with a startling evil air. Even in the outside world, very few people are as sinful as him. Back then, he did not obtain the inheritance because of his sins, unable to walk out of the Kunlun realm, the girl in her prime said slowly, advising Xiaochen not to think about this matter. Inheritance? At the mention of inheritance, Xiaochen recalled that there did not seem to be any benefits from the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor's inheritance. The man in blue smiled and said, no benefits. If it were another Dragon Emperor's inheritance, how could it help you break the restrictions and advance to veritable personage? You are a classic example of a well-fed man who does not know the suffering of the hungry. To become a god, one must first become a human. The veritable personage realm is an important dividing line on the path of the martial Tao. Who knows how many people have been stuck there? It is rare to see someone break through as easily as you did. Xiaochen smiled and did not argue. The man in blue said that he was a well-fed man who did not know the suffering of the hungry. However, the man in blue did not know that the cultivators of the Kunlun realm suffered much more than the cultivators of the outside world. Along the way, Xiaochen's life had hung by a thread many times. He had suffered in pain many times and risked his life many times. Furthermore, there was the Scarlet Emperor's Road, the 10,000 steps of the Emperor's Road. Each step was a calamity, and each step hurt his heart. However, Xiaochen had never been willing to argue too much. The other party was also a senior. The old dragon horse said, you still cannot come into contact with the blood-soaked Dragon Emperor's inheritance yet. However, he left some things in the Blue Dragon Palace. Do you want to go and take a look now? Not for now. I want to go to the Bright Moon Palace to take a look first and do my best to bring out the 3 holy lands. The old dragon horse said sullenly, right. That's good too. However, after this matter is over, you need to go to the Blue Dragon Palace's medicinal pool and soak in it to stabilize your cultivation. Otherwise, it will be problematic if your foundation is damaged. Many thanks, Senior. I will definitely return safely. After walking out of the Blue Dragon Palace, Xiaochen looked at the sky above. The heavy rain and strong winds had already scattered the dark clouds for 50 kilometers around. The clear sky was occupied by hazy, blood-colored spiritual clouds. No light could be seen, and no sun could be seen. After learning about the Dark Church's origins and how the Thunder King injured the Qing Emperor, Xiaochen felt very depressed. The old dragon horse said that the past was gone with the wind. The past was already the past. However, Xiaochen wanted to say that he was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's reincarnation and had an inextricable connection to the Qing Emperor. The cause of the past resulted in today's results. Everything was not over yet. The past was gone with the wind. However, what was blown away was the autumn wind. What came in was an even colder east wind. Chen walked over from afar. Xiaochen collected his thoughts and asked, "Is there any news of Yu Bingyun?" Coincidentally, Yu Bingyun happened to be in Bright Moon City. After the Dragon's Gate was re-established, her relationship with the Lunar Palace improved significantly, so they frequently visited each other. That is what I wanted to say. Bingyun just used a messaging token to contact me, telling me to bring the people of the Dragon's Gate and leave as soon as possible. The Lunar Palace seems to be unable to hold on. There is a total of 8 immortal statues surrounding Bright Moon City. Chen said somewhat anxiously. Before I could say anything about Big Brother Xiao returning, her messaging token shattered. I believe that she guessed that she was in the middle of the battle at that time. Big Brother Xiao, are you going over immediately? You know what I mean. After saying that, Xiaochen brushed past Chen. When Chen turned her head back, she could only see Xiaochen's departing figure. There's no need to worry. I will be back. If there are other people fleeing to the Dragon's Gate, just open the city gates. Heavenly Star Island will be fine. Heavenly Starry Ocean, Bright Moon City, this grandest city of the Heavenly Starry Ocean was currently suffering from a calamity. The Treasure Master seemed to know that the Lunar Palace was hard to deal with. The Treasure Master purposely sent 8 immortal statues. There were only 18 immortal statues in total, nearly half of them. The gargantuan immortal statues surrounded Bright Moon City. The island shattered, and Bright Moon City looked like a bright moon on the vast island. It bobbed up and down in the sea. A ring of gentle golden light encircled the entire city. From a distance, it looked like a golden full moon. The 4 immortal statues continuously executed all sorts of magic skills at the ring of golden light, trying to break this barrier. Lightning, ice, and fire formed all sorts of mysterious phenomena. Sometimes they were huge hands holding up the sky, sometimes they were ancient ferocious beasts. The Lunar Palace disciples in Bright Moon City and the cultivators fleeing here all panicked. Heaven-shaking noises resounded by his ears, reverberating endlessly. The city was flipped upside down, swaying left and right. The Lunar Palace disciples all performed their duties, doing their best to maintain the protective formation, not letting the magic skills of the immortal statues break the barrier. In the sky, the Bright Moon Empress, Yu Bingyun, and a group of Lunar Palace elders resisted the attacks of the 4 immortal statues. If not for them blocking the combined attacks of the 8 immortal statues, the barrier at the city gates would have broken long ago. Once the barrier broke, the 1 million cultivators in the city and the tens of thousands of Lunar Palace disciples would all die. Even further away, the black-clad people of the Treasure Master's residence rode many war chariots. They watched all this like tigers watching their prey. Once the city was broken, they would immediately charge in. The Holy Lands were all elite cultivators. Their chi and blood were flourishing, which would be useful for the blood sacrifice. Palace Master, we can't hold on much longer. These immortal statues do not know fatigue. They fought with us for a long time, but they do not show any signs of fatigue. A female Lunar Palace elder said with great difficulty, her complexion pale. The Bright Moon Empress frowned slightly. Although she still had some combat prowess, these elders could not hold on any longer. Without the help of these elders, the Bright Moon Empress was simply too much to handle the 4 immortal statues alone. Up in the sky, the colossal bodies of the immortal statues advanced boldly, forcing the Bright Moon Palace's people into a continuous retreat. Retreat to Bright Moon City. Seeing that defeat was imminent, the Bright Moon Empress shouted and sent out a vast bright moon, barely pushing back the 4 immortal statues, buying everyone a chance to retreat. Just at this moment, Mooncake Cloud's eyes lit up in excitement. She pointed into the distance and said, "Master, look." The Bright Moon Empress looked in the direction Mooncake Cloud pointed and saw a white-clad silhouette at the limits of her vision. This person moved 50 kilometers with each step, appearing slow but actually urgent. Wherever he passed, the raging winds and roaring waves became tranquil beneath his feet.